Chapter 1786. The one clasp of the hands to pay respects as the dust settles. The door opened completely. In Al-Heaven, the giant furnace covered in black gas in the core of the cave world trembled. The black gas shattered inch by inch. A giant crack appeared in the middle of the furnace, and golden light scattered. Thunderous rumbles echoed as the crack grew larger and larger. Finally, the furnace was split in half. As it split, a golden door as large as the world appeared. The door opened, and clouds filled the inside of the door. Sometimes you could see a strange continent, sometimes it was a blur. When the door appeared, the ruins outside the furnace disintegrated and turned into space that connected with the rest of the cave world. All the cultivators observing here felt a tremble that spread across the entire cave world. As the tremble echoed, the entrance to the core of the cave world in Al-Heaven suddenly disappeared and the furnace appeared. The golden door from the furnace gave off endless golden light that shrouded the cave world. Outside the golden door, people appeared one by one. These people were the ones that had entered the core of the cave and hadn't died. There were Tuo Sen, Tao Master Blue Dream, Tang Shan, and the people from Planet 5 Elements. There was also Wang Lin. Aside from the rumble from the golden door opening, there was silence. No one else spoke. They all looked at the golden door and the world on the other side that was sometimes clear and sometimes a blur. As Wang Lin looked at the door, his eyes revealed more than 2,000 years of melancholy. The door had finally opened, finally appeared. Wang Lin had waited for a long time for this day. The day when he learned that the world was only a cave world. He imagined the day when he could open the door to the real world, to the immortal astral continent. Now that he was looking at the golden door, he seemed to have entered a trance. More than 2,000 years of memories replayed in his mind. He had gone from a child from a village in the mountains and step by step arrived at the present where he opened the door of the cave world. This process was bitter. Very few people could understand the hardships he had suffered, the countless encounters with fate for good or ill. One air, I have opened the door to the cave world. That S where I'll awaken you, this is my promise to you. Wang Lin looked at the door and felt sadness in his heart. He thought about Li Muan. Shi Qing, I promise to revive you. I'll definitely succeed. Wang Lin looked at the golden door. In an instant, he seemed to see his entire life inside the door. The third concubine, Tang Shan, bit her lower lip and looked at the golden door, tears flowing down from her eyes. She missed her hometown, missed her sect, missed her teacher and sect. She had been in the cave world for far too long. She should be numb, but her longing had turned into her will to continue waiting. She had managed to wait until this day arrived. The old man named Ma and Yun Yifeng looked at the golden door with emotions. They had been in the cave world for a long time, but in the end they hadn't gained anything. The old man named Ma looked at Yun Yifeng with kindness in his eyes. He still remembered back then, when Yun Yifeng was only an 18 or 19-year-old youth. However, now, aside from his appearance, Yun Yifeng was already very old. Let's go home, the old man named Ma let out a sigh. Going home, Yun Yifeng looked at the golden door. Even he, who was always calm, was moved and felt very complicated. He was confused and was unclear if the immortal astral continent was his home, or whether Planet 5 Elements in the cave world was his home. Behind the old man named Ma were the two middle-aged men from Planet 5 Elements. They looked at the golden door with the same complicated feeling they couldn't express clearly. There was also the black tortoise and vermilion bird. They looked at the golden door and felt bitterness in their hearts. They recalled the 7 Tao sect and their time with the 7-colored celestial sovereign. Now they were going to return to the immortal astral continent, but the 7 Tao sect was likely long gone. Compared to the people that didn't belong to the cave world, Tao Master Blue Dream's eyes were filled with hidden hesitation. Even though he already knew a lot and understood that the world was just a cave, now that he was facing the door of the cave, he didn't know what to do. Should he leave or stay? Tuo Sen or Tu Si also silently pondered. He looked at the golden door. It was unknown what he was thinking. In Al-Heaven, outside the golden door, several rays of light closed in. Some cultivators from the cave world came from far away. When they saw the golden door, they were all shocked. Wang Lin's gaze withdrew from the golden door after a long time. He could tell that after leaving the 5th flower, his 8 essence true bodies had disappeared. His water essence was still only at small completion, and the other 7 essences were hidden away. Everything was back to before he had entered the Donglin pool. Even though Wang Lin knew that this would happen, he still felt a small fluctuation in his heart, but he soon suppressed it. He was now filled with expectation about the Donglin pool on the immortal astral continent. There may be some feuds between us, so perhaps we should fight to the death, but now that the door has opened, all our grievances are gone. If any of you want to leave the cave world, I'll send you off. Wang Lin clasped his hands at everyone here. Wang Lin's words were sincere without any lies, and he was tired. The memories of more than 2,000 years ago until now, when the door had finally opened, replayed in his mind. As long as he was human, he would feel tired. Not only was he tired, everyone here was the same. Dao Master Blue Dream had helped because of his daughter and was injured. Tuo Sen and Wang Lin were enemies and friends. He had helped at a key moment and was also tired. Whether it was Tang Shan, Black Tortoise, Vermilion Bird, or the cultivators from Planet 5 Elements, they were all tired. The intensity of the battle in the core of the cave world was rarely seen. The old man named Ma from Planet 5 Elements was the first to step forward after pondering. He looking at Wang Lin with a complicated gaze, and after a long time he spoke. Fellow cultivator Wang, this old man will leave first. If you come to the land of the Celestials, you can come visit the 5 Elements sect. Wang Lin nodded and calmly said, Thank you, Senior, for helping before. If I am fortunate, I'll definitely visit the 5 Elements sect. Yun Yifeng, who was behind the old man named Ma, looked at his surroundings with nostalgia. In the end, he looked at Wang Lin and clasped his hands. Brother Wang, take care. Our battle is not over. We'll decide a victor on the immortal astral continent. Fellow cultivator Yun, take care. Wang Lin looked at Yun Yifeng. This person was very cunning. Wang Lin had somewhat seen through him in the cave world. Wang Lin's gaze fell on the other 2 middle-aged cultivators from Planet 5 Elements. He seemed to remember something, and waved his hand at the distance. Ripples echoed in the distance. The White Tiger General and the other Planet 5 Elements cultivator appeared. Their appearance didn't surprise the old man named Ma. He seemed to already know. However, the Black Tortoise General and Vermilion Bird General were startled. Fellow cultivators of Planet 5 Elements, As Wang Lin spoke, the White Tiger General released the cultivator from Planet 5 Elements. The cultivator from Planet 5 Elements pondered for a bit, and then returned to his sect. A group of people turned into a ray of light and flew toward the golden door. There was a flash of golden light, and then it disappeared. Seeing the people of Planet 5 Elements go through the door, the Black Tortoise General and the Vermilion Bird General walked forward a few steps and clasped their hands at Wang Lin. Fellow cultivator Wang Lin, the matters before, alas. Thanks, fellow cultivator, for forgiving us. We will take our leave first. If there is anything you need, we'll certainly help. The person who spoke was the Black Tortoise General. He waved his right hand and a jade floated toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin accepted the jade and nodded. Then he looked at the White Tiger General in the distance. You can go as well. The White Tiger General was startled, and his eyes were filled with gratitude. He bowed deeply toward Wang Lin, and then arrived next to the Black Tortoise General and the Vermilion Bird General. The Vermilion Bird General looked at Wang Lin with a profound and complicated gaze. Thanks. The 3 of them turned into 3 rays of light and flew toward the golden door as Wang Lin pondered. They disappeared into the door and returned to the immortal astral continent. The 3rd concubine, Tang Shan, bit her lower lip and stepped toward the golden door. When she was 100 feet or so from the door, she stopped and looked at Wang Lin. Thank you. Wang Lin looked at Tang Shan and slowly said, You have helped me and I have helped you. There is no need for thanks. Tang Shan opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but she stayed silent. She flew toward the door, and the moment she was about to disappear, she suddenly turned around. Will we ever meet again? Wang Lin didn't speak. Tang Shan's gaze became dim, and she was shrouded by the golden light. No one but her saw her eyes dim, and she slowly disappeared within the golden door. At this moment, everyone who didn't belong to the cave world had left one by one. Wang Lin's gaze moved past Dao Master Blue Dream and the others until it landed on the void. He clasped his hands at the void. There was nothing there, and nothing looked out of the ordinary. There were no ripples or anything, but Wang Lin's words echoed as he clasped his hands. Senior Xuan Luo, you have followed me the entire way. You went to Planet 5 Elements, to the Celestial Realm, and came to the core of this cave. Now that you have seen me open the door, have you seen enough? Can you show yourself? The void began to distort as Wang Lin spoke, and a hidden figure appeared. These sudden words and change shocked everyone. Their gazes all shifted toward the figure. How did you know my name? A gentle voice came from the blurry figure. The VIDEO has reached first place in the ranking but still can't maintain the top position. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of VIDEO. Leo is extremely grateful. As his words echoed, Xuanluo's figure slowly appeared in the palace Wang Lin was bowing toward, until his figure appeared in the star system. The moment Xuanluo appeared, the expressions of Tao Master Blue Dream and Tuo Sen suddenly changed. Their pupils shrank and their expressions became extremely solemn. They hadn't noticed the mysterious Xuanluo who had suddenly appeared. Even now, they could only see him, but if they were to close their eyes, they wouldn't be able to detect him. Xuanluo didn't even look at Tuo Sen and Tao Master Blue Dream. Instead, he looked at Wang Lin with a smile of interest and waited for Wang Lin's answer. He was not surprised that Wang Lin knew where he was hiding, but he couldn't help but make speculate when Wang Lin had called out his name. He guessed a few things. Xuanluo smiled and slowly said, I know. In the first flower in the world where that little white tiger set up the law, you took a wisp of soul from the little planet 5 elements cultivator. Then you secretly soul-searched that strand of soul to see what happened on planet 5 elements after you left. Wang Lin silently pondered for a bit and nodded. In truth, it was as Xuanluo had said. Wang Lin had learned his name from the soul of the planet 5 elements cultivator Ace Avatar. The memory from the Avatar soul was incomplete and only covered recent events. But this included when Xuanluo appeared after Wang Lin left. This matter confirmed the doubts Wang Lin had when he saw the cultivators from planet 5 elements. After all, he hadn't seen the old man who had spoken of the ancient Dao clan with contempt. To be more precise, when Wang Lin set up the trap for the 7-colored Taoist, the disappearance of the eye fish shocked him greatly. He carefully looked for the reason and found it in the Avatar soul. In the second flower, Wang Lin had vaguely become aware of something. Then, in the ancient tomb, he confirmed his speculation. When he retreated behind Xuanluo and let Xuanluo act, Wang Lin confirmed that what he knew was true. The reason you can accurately detect my position should be related to the eye fish. I ignored the connection between the male and female eye fishes. Xuanluo shook his head. He indeed was negligent about this matter. However, Wang Lin had been able to find him and figure out his identity. From his point of view, Wang Lin had surpassed his test, and he was extremely satisfied. Is what this old man said correct? Xuanluo smiled and looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was strange, and he nodded once more. As a result, not only do you know this old man's name, you even know my identity. Xuanluo smiled even wider. He had been hiding beside Wang Lin for a long time, and his mood has been very good. There was an indescribable feeling and even some regret as he felt that Wang Lin should have found him a bit later. Wang Lin silently pondered for a moment before speaking. One of the 9 sons of the immortal astral continent, the ancient Tao Grand Empyrean. When he found out about this from the Avatar soul, a huge wave was set off in his heart. However, he hid it very well, so no one had seen through him. Wang Lin looked at Xuanluo and slowly said, the reason the cultivators from Planet 5 Elements gave up the fight for the third soul was because of Senior. They even came to help because of Senior. Junior is grateful. The more Xuanluo looked at Wang Lin, the happier he was. He was extremely satisfied with Wang Lin along the way, and when he heard Wang Lin's humble words, he laughed. He appreciated even more that even though Wang Lin knew he was present, he hadn't asked for his help. During this entire battle in the core of the cave world, Wang Lin had managed to reverse the situation by himself. Xuanluo no longer hesitated about taking Wang Lin as his only disciple. Follow me back to the ancient Taoist land in the immortal astral continent. Become my only disciple and guard the ancient Tao clan. Little fellow, are you willing? Xuanluo looked at Wang Lin with a gentle gaze. His voice wasn't demanding at all, but had the tone of a senior discussing something with a junior. His expression and tone aroused a sense of warmth in Wang Lin's heart. However, Wang Lin didn't agree and instead began to ponder. Xuanluo had observed Wang Lin for a long time and somewhat understood Wang Lin. Seeing Wang Lin ponder, He vaguely guessed Wang Lin's thoughts. Xuan Luo frowned and looked at the golden door with a sigh. He didn't frown at Wang Lin, but at what he guessed Wang Lin was thinking. There are many cave worlds on the immortal astral continent. It can be said that any sizable sect has their own cave world. However, since ancient times, rarely any life could come out from the cave worlds, much less kill the owner of the cave world. If it wasn't for the fact that the seven-colored celestial sovereign's soul had been shattered, he wouldn't have been sealed. Xuan Luo looked at Wang Lin and spoke. Do you know why? This is because of the law of the immortal astral continent. If the life inside the many cave worlds don't have a bloodline from the immortal astral continent, they can get past the law of the immortal astral continent. Although it is a law, it can be considered a powerful pressure that separates the cave worlds. Any life without the bloodline that leaves the cave world is crushed the moment it leaves. Xuan Luo's ancient voice echoed. This law from the immortal astral continent is something no one can resist. I understand your thoughts. You don't want to leave by yourself. You want to let everyone else leave and see the immortal astral continent. Xuan Luo sighed. Wang Lin pondered for a bit and softly said, if they don't want to leave, Junior won't force them, but if they want to leave, then Junior indeed does have this thought in mind. This is impossible. Forget you, but the woman named Wan Er in your dream Dao can't go to the immortal astral continent. When Xuan Luo said this, Wang Lin suddenly raised his head. She can't go either? Xuan Luo revealed a complicated expression. He knew how important that woman was to Wang Lin, and he nodded. Wang Lin was startled for a long time. However, someone told me before that if there was someone in the immortal astral continent to welcome me, it would reduce the power of the law. Whoever told you that lied to you. This matter is impossible unless all 9 suns act at the same time to help resist the supreme law of the immortal astral continent. The law of the immortal astral continent was formed by the bloodline of the celestial ancestor and ancient ancestor, and it is impossible to change. Wang Lin's face became pale, as if he had lost most of his blood. He staggered back a few steps, and the last mouthful of blood in his body seemed to flow out from the corner of his mouth. The light in his eyes immediately dimmed and the stabbing pain of despair rose up in his heart. I have checked the woman named Wan Er. It is very strange that her soul is incomplete. A part of it seems to have disappeared, and I have checked the entire cave world for you but found no trace. This matter is very strange. However, no matter what, as long as her soul is incomplete, she can be awakened. If her soul was complete, I might be able to wake her up. You can head to the immortal astral continent yourself first. Later, when you have a chance to find the missing soul, you can then return. Xuan Luo stopped talking. He could see that blood tears had filled Wang Lin's eyes. Really impossible. Wang Lin bitterly lowered his head. I want to abandon Wan Er here alone and go to the immortal astral continent by myself. The reason I wanted to open the door and head to the immortal astral continent was for her. In order to awaken her, I originally thought of heading to the immortal astral continent to find the method if she can go, and I go by myself alone for thousands of years if she can go. I might as well stay in the cave world and never leave until I die. Wang Lin murmured as tears fell, and the tears were slightly red. If the soul was in sorrow, the mind was in sorrow. If your everything was drowned in despair and sorrow, tears of blood would flow. Wang Lin's words fell in Dao Master Blue Dream's ears. He silently listened to his daughter's lover so attached to another woman, but this time he didn't feel anger. Instead, he felt sympathy and sorrow, and he thought of his own wife. Xuan Luo looked at Wang Lin. After a long time, he let out a sigh and suddenly spoke. Wang Lin, it is not impossible. This old man will go all out once and help you fight against the law of the immortal astral continent and use the heavenly sun reincarnation spell. Any of your friends that want to leave the cave world will be reborn on the immortal astral continent with my spell. After they reincarnate, they will be people of the immortal astral continent and obtain a bloodline. However, their memories will be sealed, and you will have to find them one by one to awaken their sealed memories. This process could be very long. This old man can calculate the specific time. Some people might only need a few years to reincarnate, and some may take as long as 1,000 years. Also, this old man can determine their reincarnation location. The immortal astral continent is simply too big. You have to be prepared and be confident to find them one by one. As for the woman named Wan Air, her soul is incomplete, so she can be reborn, but this old man will help with this as well. While I am resisting the law of the immortal astral continent, you have a 50% chance of taking her to the immortal astral continent safely. However, the possibility is only 50%. Once you fail, you will die with her. Tell me your choice. Xuan Luo would have to pay a great price for this, but he said this without hesitation. There was no such thing as free help in this world, and Wang Lin understood this. Only a difference in practice could yield different results, such as Duan Tian in the past and Xuan Luo now. Although they had helped with their own agenda, Wang Lin's heart felt warm and not cold. And Wang Lin cared a lot about the people he owed, like Duan Tian and now Xuan Luo. Urgently wishing for all friends to push a round of video, Leo is extremely grateful. Wang Lin lowered his head and looked at the familiar space outside the Golden Gate. He silently pondered. Xuan Luo's words echoed in his ears and lingered for a long time. The words revealed to him the preparations of entering the immortal astral continent and the consequences. Wang Lin understood. Reincarnate, Wang Lin muttered. Perhaps a few years, perhaps 1,000 years, all those that want to leave the cave world without a bloodline will need to go through this. After a long time, they will appear somewhere on the immortal astral continent. When we meet 1,000 years later, I'll need to release their sealed memories after a long time. Wang Lin looked up at Xuan Luo and gave a deep bow. Wang Lin vaguely understood that to go against the law of the immortal astral continent like this required Xuan Luo to pay a great price. Junior doesn't know who will decide to leave the cave world and how many there will be. However, no matter what happens, Junior will not forget the kindness Senior has shown me today. Wang Lin bowed before Xuan Luo. An invisible connection seemed to form between them. It was impossible to explain or comprehend, but it was there. As for Wan Air, if we can both live, then even if we die together in the door to leave the cave world, I will have no regrets. Wang Lin's words were filled with determination. The words no regrets echoed across the star system. No regrets. These two words revealed Wang Lin's Tao heart for more than 2,000 years. These words revealed the fated encounter outside the Sea of Devils more than 2,000 years ago. These words released Wang Lin's feeling of love, longing, and sorrow as he roared. Aside from his mother, no woman in the world could replace Li Muan in his heart. He had encountered countless beauties in the world, but none of them was her. He had allowed countless delicate shadows to dance by him like butterflies, but none of them was her, who was accompanied by the zither music. This was a love that had entangled Wang Lin for more than 2,000 years, and it would not dissipate until the day Wang Lin died. They thought that they would rather die together if they couldn't live together. These two words entered Tao Master Blue Dream's ears, and his eyes dimmed. He looked in the direction of the celestial realm and silently pondered. Xuan Luo's eyes shined as he looked at Wang Lin, who looked back at him. He heard Wang Lin's words of no regrets and nodded. To cast the reincarnation spell and wrest the law of the immortal astral continent would need me to prepare for a bit. 1 month from now, bring all the people that want to leave and I'll cast the spell. As for you, this is your own choice. Xuan Luo didn't persuade anymore. During this period of testing Wang Lin, he had come to learn a lot about Wang Lin's character. Once Wang Lin made up his mind, he wouldn't change it. This Wang Lin fits my requirements very well. He would rather wait 1,000 years and find his friends to awaken their memory. This is righteous. He doesn't want to leave by himself but wants to leave with all his friends. He is a benevolent person. He won't give up his lover even if they both die, and he won't regret it. Such a benevolent and sentimental person. If I don't abandon him, he will do whatever it takes to protect my ancient Dao clan for eternity once we show him kindness. There was a flash of mysterious light in Xuan Luo's eyes, and he made a decision. Wang Lin looked profoundly at Xuan Luo and bowed a third time. He turned and left. Dao Master Blue Dream left with him while silently pondering. As for Tuo Sen, after saying goodbye to Wang Lin, he mindlessly walked toward the end of the horizon as he pondered about whether he should leave the cave world to reincarnate into the immortal astral continent or not. The endless star system was very beautiful as the nebula shine. However, in Wang Lin's eyes, he couldn't tell if they were real or fake. After a long time, he withdrew his gaze from the stars and rushed through them. He wasn't leaving Al Heaven but went to where planet Donglin used to be. Planet Dong Lin had collapsed, leaving only a rift. That rift led to the frozen second flower. Before leaving, there were a few things Wang Lin had to do. There was the ancient god Yun Na. Wang Lin had promised to help her escape the frozen world. Planet Dong Lin was on the opposite side of the golden door in Al Heaven. Even though it was far away from the golden door, the golden light still reached all the way here, and the star domain was shrouded in the golden light. The rift to the frozen world was like a wound in the star system. It flickered and would sometimes release cold energy into the star domain that was dyed golden. At this moment, the space outside the rift distorted and Wang Lin appeared. He looked at the rift and moved closer to it. His ancient Tao aura rushed into his hands as he grabbed the rift and mercilessly ripped. The star system rumbled, and with a roar from Wang Lin, the rift was torn open even more. The cold energy rushed out, revealing the frozen land. The frozen second flower was the only place that hadn't collapsed. The land was still frozen, and although Xuanluo's power was gone, the ice was still there. Wang Lin stood outside the rift, and his divine sense sent a message into the frozen world. Yun Na, I have come to take you out. Inside the frozen world, on the giant stone platform, Yun Na slowly opened her eyes. She looked at the ice in the distance and smiled. He came. She closed her eyes, and a cloud of smoke came out from between her eyebrows. It disappeared into the ice before her. The smoke left her body and drifted toward Wang Lin. Soon, it appeared at the entrance to Al Heaven. She saw Wang Lin. However, there was a layer of ice between the two. I was created by Master to guard the Donglin sect. To repay this kindness, I left my ancient god body here and used its life force to nourish this place from now on. I'll have no connection with this place. I hope you can help me leave and take my soul away, Yun Na's divine sense message echoed. Looking at Yun Na's soul inside the ice, Wang Lin understood. Back when Wang Lin first entered the second flower, she asked for help but didn't decisively separate her soul from her body. She waited until Wang Lin had passed the 5 flowers' 8 doors and opened the door to the cave world before separating her soul from her body. There was nothing wrong with his. After all, separating her soul from her body was very important. She naturally had to be careful. Wang Lin would keep his promise and didn't think too much about this matter. At the rift, he spat out a mouthful of ancient Tao energy into the ice. His breath was invisible, but the moment it touched the ice, crackling sounds echoed. Large amounts of cracks appeared, and the ice collapsed layer by layer. When the ice collapsed, Yun Na's soul came out of the ice sliver by sliver. When the ice collapsed completely, her soul reformed into her appearance. She had escaped through the cracks Wang Lin had created. She looked at the star system with calm eyes. There were no ripples in her eyes, she just calmly looked. After a long time, she bowed at Wang Lin. Thank you for helping. Wang Lin's gaze fell on Yun Na's soul, and he said, This is my promise to you. It can be considered an exchange for your help. However, you decide if you just want to leave and live in his cave world, or head to the immortal astral continent. That is where the real Donglin sect is located, and also the hometown of your master, the 7-colored celestial sovereign. If you want to stay here, then leave. If you want to go to the immortal astral continent, you must suffer the bitter trial of 1,000 years to reincarnate. Yun Na calmly listened to Wang Lin's words. After pondering for a bit, she looked at the calm star system ahead and whispered, Reincarnation is good, 1,000 years is not long. Wang Lin saw the bitterness of time and the confusion about the future. Perhaps choosing to reincarnate was the best path for her. Wang Lin didn't speak anymore. He waved his right hand and opened his palm. Yun Na gently floated toward Wang Lin until she turned into a fist-sized ball of light and floated in Wang Lin's palm. Wang Lin closed his hand and put the light into his storage space. He took one more look at the world sealed in ice and left. The entire space of the cave world was familiar to Wang Lin. He didn't move very fast as he looked around. It was as if he was slowly going around before he left. Wang Lin had also made the same promise to another person. She was in the depths of the cloud sea. Her name was Fan Shanlu. This Fan Shanlu was a pitiful woman. She was the celestial sovereign's first concubine and also Fan Shanmin's little sister. However, she had been in the cave world for far too long, and ended up being caught in her elder sister's illusion in order to obtain Wang Lin's blood of oath. She is someone from the immortal astral continent, so she doesn't need to be reincarnated to leave. Wang Lin stepped forward and crossed Al-Heaven, entering the Cloud Sea. He went into the depths of the rift where Fan Shanlu was. Aside from bringing Fan Shanlu away, there was something Wang Lin had almost forgotten. In the last month before leaving, he suddenly remembered. He had once made a promise to a small character that he would give that person a body of a certain cultivation level. The soul of that small character had been in his storage space for a long time. Embarrassed, I've been remiss in saying thank you. Thank you all for pressing the like button. Thanks to the fellow Taoists for their praise. Normally, 1 month of time would pass by in an instant, but this last month in the cave world was different. In a flash, 10 days passed. During these 10 days of time, Wang Lin found Fan Shanlu. She was the Celestial Sovereign's first concubine and had the bloodline of the immortal astral continent. She could leave through the door and return to her home. Fan Shanlu left, leaving behind the large ship. Wang Lin had already refined the mainsail and could control it freely. He put it inside his storage space. During these 10 days, Wang Lin had also found a cultivation planet. He used his powerful cultivation to find a body that had just died and then transformed the body. He put the soul of the minor character into the body and formed an origin soul. After doing this, Wang Lin silently moved through the stars by himself. Deep in his heart, he felt the trace of reluctance. At first, this sense of reluctance was not much, but as he walked through all the familiar places, it became even stronger. With a sigh, Wang Lin disappeared from the bright light. When he reappeared, he was at the junction of the 4 great star systems, which was the location of the celestial realm. He stepped into the celestial realm. As the ripples echoed, Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, shrouding the celestial realm. He sent out the information about needing to go through reincarnation in order to leave the cave world. If anyone wants to leave, you can come and find me. I'll leave half a month from now. Wang Lin sat on the mountain he had used for closed-door cultivation and slowly closed his eyes. Staying or going was a choice. Wang Lin would not intervene. He had just opened the door. As for the world outside, Wang Lin didn't know if it was good or bad for the people of the cave world. It was because of this that he had given everyone the chance to make this choice themselves. On the second day after Wang Lin sat down, Situnan arrived. He stepped through the air with white clouds below his feet. He held a wine jug in his hand as he closed in step by step until he was beside Wang Lin. Situnan looked the same as before, his long hair fluttering and his clothes casual as he took a sip of wine. Although he looked calm, he still vaguely revealed a hint of what was happening in his mind. Wang Lin, tell me, if I reincarnate, will I be able to become the king of Immortal City on the immortal astral continent? Situnan muttered. Originally, there was a feeling of parting, but this feeling scattered a lot with Situ's words. Wang Lin smiled as he grabbed the wine from Situnan and took a big sip. If I really by coincidence reincarnate into a king, don't find me too quickly. Wait until I enjoy a lifetime as a king before finding me. Situnan looked at Wang Lin and smiled. You have decided. Wang Lin looked at Situnan. Situnan was his friend and teacher. As they said their goodbyes, more than 2,000 years of memories replayed in their minds. IV decided. With this old man's talent, it would be a pity to not wreck the place. I should be a lot happier there. Situnan laughed. He was really at ease. We can live freely and do as we wish on the immortal astral continent. One tea, that'd be fun. Situnan took the wine jug back from Wang Lin and took a big sip. Wang Lin calmly looked at Situnan. Their gazes met, and after a long time Situnan let out a sigh. You little brat, you better not forget to come and find me. Damn it, reincarnation, this old man better reincarnate into a king. As Situ sighed, Wang Lin nodded. If I'm not dead, I'll definitely find you. Qing Shui was the second person to find Wang Lin, and beside him was Red Butterfly. The father and daughter came at the same time. They appeared out of the void and landed beside Wang Lin. Qing Shui didn't say much. He stood there looking for a while and didn't say anything. Beside him, Red Butterfly looked at him with slightly red eyes. It seemed that something Wang Lin didn't know about had happened when they made the decision. Hanyan, there must be a method for you to return on the immortal astral continent. Then our family will be together again. Qing Shui's gaze landed on Red Butterfly with fatherly love in his eyes. Aside from Situ, Qing Shui and Red Butterfly, the fourth person to come was 13. 13's thoughts were very simple. As Wang Lin's disciple, he had to follow Wang Lin even if it was going through blade and fire, or even through reincarnation. In his heart, his teacher for one life would be his teacher even through reincarnation. 13 sat calmly behind Wang Lin. His personality was much calmer than before. His killing intent had mostly dissipated and was well hidden inside his body. He didn't reveal any of it. Time slowly passed like this. Several more people came from all directions of the celestial realm and sat down behind Wang Lin. They chose to leave. On the 9th day after Wang Lin returned to the celestial realm, Li Qianmei came. Wearing a white dress, she appeared a lot thinner than before. She looked sorrowful, but she was filled with determination and perseverance. Before Wang Lin, Li Qianmei hid her own sorrow. Li Qianmei bit her lower lip and asked softly, "Should I go?" Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked at Li Qianmei for a long time. "Should I go?" Li Qianmei softly asked once more, but her voice began to tremble. Wang Lin looked at Li Qianmei. He saw Li Qianmei's helplessness, saw her inner struggle much like his own. Those words from back then echoed in his ears once more. "Should I go?" Li Qianmei squeezed out a smile. Her jade-like hand held her hair and she turned around to leave. Wang Lin grabbed Li Qianmei's hand, and his voice echoed, "Go to the immortal astral continent. Wait until I find you, until I release your sealed memories. It could be 10 years, could be 100 years, could be 1,000 years. You wait." Li Qianmei stopped and turned around. She looked at Wang Lin but didn't speak. She just softly nodded. "I'll find you." Wang Lin looked at Li Qianmei and gently pulled her to his side so she sat down with him. The moment Li Qianmei was pulled by Wang Lin, 2 streams of tears flowed down from her eyes. The tears dripped down from her face and fell on her clothes. "Father is unwilling to leave. He will remain here with Mother. I don't know whether I should go or not. Should I accompany my father here, or wait for you on the immortal astral continent?" Li Qianmei lowered her head. In her heart, there were 2 voices, but when Wang Lin grabbed her hand, there was only one left. Do you really want me to go to the immortal astral continent?" Li Qianmei bit her lower lip and looked up at Wang Lin. Her eyes were filled with confusion. Wang Lin pondered a bit and nodded. "Then you have to quickly find me. I'll wait for you forever." The confusion in Li Qianmei's eyes disappeared and was replaced with determination. Time slowly passed. There were only 3 days left of the 15 days Wang Lin would remain in the celestial realm. In the past few days, people Wang Lin was familiar with came, but those that had chosen to leave were simply too few compared to those that had chosen to stay. Not everyone could face reincarnation and face the unknown of the outside world. As a result, they saw this as something very dangerous. Master Hongshan chose to reincarnate, but Master South Cloud struggled for a while and decided to stay. There were also other people Wang Lin knew, like John Kongli, Master Flamespark, etc. They all chose to stay and weren't willing to leave. There were only 2 days left of the half-month period. It was dusk and the world was dark, so one couldn't see too far. One could only see the outlines of the mountains. Dusk had its own unique beauty. It was like a golden painting. In this world that was like a painting, 3 figures closed in. The person in the middle was a middle-aged man, and his appearance was extraordinary. He gave off a sense of age. He was Qing Lin. Beside him was his daughter, Qing Shuang, who had a cold expression and didn't seem to care about Zhou Yi at all. Zhou Yi didn't seem to care, as if he was used to it, and he didn't regret it. He looked at Qing Shui with the longing he had in the past. He was looking at the same face, but it was a different person. This feeling produced a pain in Zhou Yi's heart that could tear a person in half. He either had to give up or accept it. "Wang Lin, my daughter and I are ready to leave and reincarnate," Qing Lin said when he arrived next to Wang Lin. He turned to look at Zhou Yi and let out a sigh. As the last 3 days passed, Zhou Ru, Shen Gonggu, and others made their decisions and came to Wang Lin. There weren't many people that decided to leave, less than 20 people. On the last days, a thin rain fell on the celestial realm. Mu Bingmei, all dressed in white, walked through the rain. Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked up to see an extremely beautiful woman holding an umbrella. Her long black hair was like a painting, and her otherworldly beauty seemed to make the world silent aside from the sound of rain. A strange force seemed to make people forget about everything. and her beautiful figure was covered by a haze of rain. This was the beautify of Mu Bingmei, or, more accurately, it was Lu Mei. Because at this moment, Mu Bingmei's appearance, clothes, and expression were things that Wang Lin could never forget. Feebly asking, 4,000 words, does that count as a major chapter? Could it be hoping for the like button for the video and the followers too? I hope Lord Wilby have a safe passage. Mu Bingmei held the umbrella as she looked at Wang Lin through the rain. Her soft words echoed in the rain. They were very soft and not at all cold. In the end, she decided not to leave. She had come here to see Wang Lin one last time. Who knew when they would meet again? Wang Lin couldn't guess her thoughts. Mu Bingmei was not a simple woman. Since she had decided to say, she had her reasons. He wouldn't ask, and he didn't want to ask. Half a month passed in the rain. At dusk of the last day, the rain seemed to become more dense and formed a curtain of rain. If one looked closely, they could see the end of this hazy world. Wang Lin stood up and took a step to the sky. Behind him, everyone that was going to leave flew into the air, turning into rays of light. They released a dazzling bloom in the rain. Standing in the sky, Wang Lin looked down at the earth below him. Mu Bingmei was still holding the umbrella and standing there. Her figure loomed in the rain as if she was watching Wang Lin. The gentle figure under the umbrella, the long dress, and the strands of hair that fluttered in the wind. There was a sense of sorrow from the figure as they parted. Looking at Mu Bingmei, Wang Lin silently pondered. After a long time, Wang Lin slowly said, "If I am still alive, I'll return." Mu Bingmei's umbrella lowered a bit, blocking her face, and she softly said, "If I am still alive, I'll greet you." Wang Lin raised his right hand and reached out at the void. His 7 essences activated at once and gathered in his hand. As the light reflected off the rain, a crystal sword appeared. This sword was a fusion of Wang Lin's essences and his ancient Tao power, so its power was shocking. I don't know when I'll be able to return to the cave world. Maybe it will be 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or longer. Maybe I'll never return. I give this sword to you. Take care. Wang Lin let out a sigh and stepped into the sky. Behind him, everyone that wanted to leave flew away. Li Qianmei looked back at Mu Bingmei and then left. Mu Bingmei stood there and looked at the rays of light flying away. 2 streams of tears flowed down from the corners of her eyes, and the world became a blur before her. Right now, she looked like a wife sending her husband off, standing at the front door as his figure went further and further away. "Take care," Mu Bingmei said softly, so much so that only she could hear. She held the essence sword Wang Lin had left behind and gently walked away in the rain. In the sky, Wang Lin looked at the familiar surroundings, and his heart calmed down. He faintly had a feeling that the matters in the cave world were far from over. With the formation there, unless someone like the sovereign appears, there won't be another war between the inner and outer realms. Even though several of the 5 masters are still alive, they are all seriously injured. With Tao Master Blue Dream and Master South Cloud here, there should be no problem. I have a few other ideas that I need to think about. The Vermilion Bird General has left, and if the first generation Vermilion Bird in the outer realm has really separated from the Vermilion Bird General, then he should have left. I just don't know if the second generation Vermilion Bird and the others are still there. Wang Lin silently led the group of people and left the celestial realm. He didn't go to the Fallen Land. The Fallen Land is not that simple. The pointer of the compass for the heaven-defying bead. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. There were speculations in his heart, but now was not the time to seek them. There was also Master Scarlet Soul, who I released, and the mysterious person who seemed to be sealed in the Wind Celestial Realm, who helped me in my battle against Taoist Water. This person later left the Wind Celestial Realm. I don't know where they are now, but perhaps they will be lured out by the door opening. There are many things and places that can be explained. Wang Lin closed his eyes as he walked forward. He put all those doubts and speculations aside to figure out once he returned from the immortal astral continent. The immortal astral continent is not my home. My home is here. This departure is like a child leaving home. There will be a day when I return. Wang Lin opened his eyes, and his eyes shined. If I'm not dead when I return, all the remaining mysteries will be solved by me. With Wang Lin's current cultivation level, he could go explore all of these, but he didn't do so. He left these mysteries as something to remember his home by. It could be said that this was kind of obsession. With these unresolved matters, even if he were to forget everything due to the passage of time, he wouldn't forget his home. More than a dozen rays of light led by Wang Lin flew across the stars. Everyone's cultivation level was high, so they moved like meteors. Li Qianmei's speed was a bit slow, but with Wang Lin's care, it wasn't a problem. When there were a few more days before the 1-month deadline, Wang Lin brought everyone to the door in Heaven. The golden door gave off bursts of golden light and looked spectacular from a distance. This door was too large and seemed to support the star system. Xuan Luo was sitting beside the door, and the golden light shrouded him. A shocking pressure spread out from his body and shrouded the surroundings. The moment Wang Lin and company arrived, Xuan Luo opened his eyes. His eyes gave off a golden glow, and his gaze swept past everyone. A few days in advance, but no problem. These people are all eligible to be reincarnated. Xuan Luo's words echoed through the stars. When he saw the amount of people, he relaxed a bit. There were less than 20 people, and that would save him a lot of effort. He originally thought there might be hundreds or thousands of people. If it was like that, it would have been difficult for Xuan Luo. After all, the more people, the more difficult the reincarnation spell would become. This amount of people was the best. In truth, Wang Lin hadn't told everyone that people could leave. Otherwise, there would definitely be more people that wanted to try to leave. The reason he didn't do this was because of Xuan Luo. Wang Lin didn't want to owe Xuan Luo anymore. This time was already the limit. He didn't want to cause too much stress and injure Xuan Luo by bringing too many people. Xuan Luo stood up and his hands formed a seal. The star system trembled and ripples echoed in all directions. A thunderous rumble echoed across the star system. The sound wasn't too intense at first, but in just a moment it was like a thunderous rumble that replaced all sounds in the world. Xuan Luo's big shirt danced as if there was an airflow inside his clothes. His hair continued to sway. A giant blood-colored sun appeared behind Xuan Luo. After the sun appeared, the golden color in the star system became dim as if it couldn't compete. The moment the sun appeared, Xuan Luo's right hand formed a seal and reached toward the void. Dragon Emperor Heavenly Spirit, I, Xuan Luo, summon you. Xuan Luo's voice was filled with a mysterious force. As his voice echoed, the rumbling became even more intense. Countless ripples appeared, followed by a huge vortex. The vortex rapidly rotated, and it looked like the entire star system was going to be sucked in. Within the depths of the vortex, it was completely dark, like it was connected to another world. Just as the vortex's rotation speed reached a certain point, a thunderous dragon roar came from the vortex. The roar quickly spread out and buzzed in Wang Lin's ears. Roar. The roar became even more intense and spread across the star system. The expressions of the people behind Wang Lin all changed, and their gazes toward Xuan Luo were filled with fear. The roar shook Wang Lin's heart, but his body didn't move as he stared at the vortex. The roar continued to come out of the vortex. Although Wang Lin couldn't see the inside of the vortex, he could imagine how a dragon was struggling to break out of it. A moment later, when the roar was about to collapse the star system, a giant head forced its way out of the vortex. The head was too big for the vortex to support. The vortex collapsed and its pieces scattered as a shockwave spread out. The giant head was a dragon head. It had a single horn and 2 dragon whiskers that were thousands of feet long. It had purplish black scales and a cold and cool gaze. All of this formed a behemoth that would shock anyone who saw it. What was even more bizarre was that the tip of the horn was not sharp but square. From afar, the tip of the horn almost looked like the crown of an emperor. Just the head was nearly 10,000 feet large. At this moment, only the head had come out. The dragon twisted its body and thunderous rumbles echoed. It seemed like it was going to come out completely. This dragon is one of my 9 weapons. The Dragon Emperor. It came from the wild lands of the eastern outskirts of the immortal astral continent. There are countless fierce beasts there, and this dragon was one of the pinnacle existences there. It had mid-stage void turbulent cultivation. Back then, this old man killed it, took its soul, refined its body, extracted its bones, and refined it into a weapon. This weapon is a whip. This old man will use this whip to lash the law of the immortal astral continent to create a gap for you all to reincarnate. As Xuan Luo's voice echoed, his right hand reached toward the dragon. The dragon let out a roar and its body rushed out from the void. 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet, 50,000 feet. until it was hundreds of thousands of feet long. It arrived before Xuan Luo and quickly shrank until it was a blood-colored dragon whip about 1,000 feet long. This whip gave off a shocking pressure. Even Wang Lin's pupils shrank when he saw the whip, and he was secretly alarmed. He felt that he could not withstand even one hit from this whip. The power of this whip was unimaginable. Leo dreams of getting a lot of likes for this video, having many followers, plenty of shares, and everyone praising his good reading and the number of words he can read. So happy. Holding the Dragon Emperor whip, Xuan Luo lashed out. The whip flew directly toward the door and entered. A thunderous rumble echoed and the door trembled. The golden chaos inside became a blur and suddenly collapsed. A powerful force rushed into the door and tore an opening inside the chaos within the door. The opening was very deep, and it was unknown where it went. At a glance, it was dark, but a strange pressure came from the chaos. As the pressure squeezed, the opening rapidly closed. Xuan Luo's eyes lit up and he waved the whip once more. He lashed out 9 times in a row, thunderous rumble echoing each time, and the dragon whip expanded to tens of thousands of feet long. In the end, the whip flew into the door and tore through the chaos, forming a path with its body. This road led to the immortal astral continent. It was like the path of reincarnation. When you reincarnate, aside from going against the law of the immortal astral continent, there is also the danger of being lost. Remember to follow the dragon and you will be on the path to reincarnate. Xuan Luo's words echoed as his hands formed a seal and pulled apart. Second spirit, mountain demon, appear in the name of his old man. Xuan Luo's hands moved and an illusion appeared before him. It was a snowy world and a heaven-piercing snowy mountain. The mountain was tall and seemed endless. It was covered in white and could shock anyone who saw it. There will be an illusion blocking the path to reincarnate. This mountain is a demon that was an ancient mountain on the immortal astral continent, but it was refined by me. I sacrificed countless souls until it became a celestial demon. This can protect your souls from scattering. Xuan Luo waved his right hand and the snowy mountain flew toward the door. Cracking sounds echoed as the road made by the dragon was frozen in white. It extended endlessly. The path of reincarnation was now protected by the snowy mountain, but it was still not complete. Third spirit, sword celestial, I summon you. Xuan Luo waved his left hand and a slit appeared between his eyebrows. A palm-sized sword flew out. I refined 99,999 broken planets around the edges of the immortal astral continent to make this sword. I then slaughtered my way into the celestial land to kill an equal amount of celestials and refine their souls to make this sword. This sword is fierce. The moment it appears, the celestials feel fear. Today, I'll send this sword to escort you all on the path of reincarnation. This will keep you all safe along the way. Xuan Luo waved his left hand, and the sword revealed a fierce aura as it flew toward the door. It was surrounded by shocking sword energy. This path had the dragon as the road, the snowy mountain as the guard, and the endless fierce sword to lead the way. Although the path was long, aside from the law of the immortal astral continent, all other issue had been resolved and the risk of reincarnating had been reduced greatly. Fourth spirit, Wind Devil, appeared before me. Xuan Luo's preparations didn't just end there. The reincarnation this time was not happening on the immortal astral continent, so the key was to resist the law of the immortal astral continent. As he spoke, Xuan Luo bit the tip of his tongue and spat out his precious essence blood. Blood was red, but the moment it appeared, it turned black. The black blood moved and gave off black gas. It instantly formed a figure that was surrounded by black fog before Xuan Luo. This figure was blurry but was filled with devilish energy. This devilish energy was not from an ancient devil, but from all the evil intent of living things. Once enough of these evil intents gathered, a devil would form. I have refined this devil for 3 reincarnations, and over the countless years I have gathered the evil intent of 3.6 billion evil people. It has already gained intelligence and can be considered a devil spirit. In my ancient Dao clan, there is a devil tablet that absorbs the power of worship. It is one of my strongest 3 weapons. With this, it can turn into a seal so that your memories won't be damaged or go missing when you all reincarnate. Then, once you all are awakened, all your memories will be restored. It will also make it so that unless another Grand Empyrean searches your soul, no one else can find out the identity of your previous life. With this, the reincarnation will be complete. Xuan Luo waved his right hand, and the black fog flew toward the door. The path of ice inside the door was covered by black fog. The fog moved and looked terrifying, but it seemed calm, and became something like a mirror. After taking out 4 of his strongest treasures, Xuan Luo's expression didn't change at all. His cultivation was heaven-defying, and he was already prepared, so he recovered from this consumption instantly. He raised his right hand and formed a seal. A blood-colored sun suddenly appeared above his hand. This sun was originally invisible, but as Xuan Luo looked at it, crackling sounds echoed. The originally illusory sun immediately turned corporeal. It could be touched, felt, and held. Wang Lin, this is made from this old man's grand Empyrean power, and it can infinitely increase the power of your Dao spells. Use this with your dream Dao. Use this method to seal their memories in a dream until the day you arrive to awaken them. For them, this reincarnation will be a dream. The fist-sized blood-colored sun floated toward Wang Lin and was grabbed by him. When Wang Lin touched the sun, his heart trembled. He could clearly feel an aura flickering inside the sun that he couldn't understand but made his soul tremble. Is this the power of the 9 suns? Wang Lin looked at the blood-colored sun in his hand and silently pondered for a moment before he closed his eyes. His dream Dao activated the moment he closed his eyes. The dream Dao was Wang Lin's original spell and was already a powerful spell. With the treasure from Xuan Luo, its power increased several-fold and almost reached the point of dreams becoming reality. An invisible ripple spread out from Wang Lin's body and shrouded everyone. Slowly, everyone, including Li Qianmei, closed their eyes and were immersed in a dream. Time slowly passed. In a flash, 1 incense stick of time passed. A blurry mark appeared between Wang Lin's eyebrows. The same mark flashed between the eyebrows of everyone else here as well. These marks seemed to resonate with each other like there was some strange connection between them. This connection would allow Wang Lin to find them in the future. With a crackling sound, the sun in Wang Lin's hand shattered. The moment the sun dissipated, Wang Lin opened his eyes and everyone else opened their eyes. The marks between their eyebrows were no longer flashing but extremely clear. An indescribable feeling appeared in everyone's hearts. Whether their eyes were opened or closed, they could feel each other. This was especially true for Wang Lin. He felt it even stronger. After you all reincarnate, this feeling will be a lot weaker. However, if you read not far away from each other, you can all feel it. Now step onto the dragon's body and this old man will send you guys off to reincarnate. Xuan Luo's voice was filled with might, causing Wang Lin and everyone else to silently ponder. Qing Lin let out a long sigh and walked forward. He was the first to walk toward the door out of the cave world, and his daughter, Qing Shuang, followed. Zhou Yi was about to step forward, but something wrapped around him, causing him to stop. Big brother Zhou, please wait for a moment. I'll try to help you with your matter when you reincarnate. Wang Lin's words echoed in Zhou Yi's mind. Wang Lin, we will meet on the immortal astral continent. Qing Lin looked to be at ease. He turned around and clasped his hands toward Wang Lin. However, the reluctance in his eyes revealed his true thoughts. Qing Lin turned around and walked into the mirror-like fog. Qing Shuang's expression was cold, as if nothing in the world could affect her. However, before stepping into the fog, she stopped for a moment and looked back at Zhou Yi. I hope you won't bother me. Her words were as cold as her expression, but it felt like there was a deeper meaning. Qing Shuang disappeared into the fog. Zhou Yi silently pondered and revealed a bitter expression. Wang Lin looked at Zhou Yi. They had known each other for more than 2,000 years, and he was aware of Zhou Yi's infatuation with Qing Shuang and their story. Seeing Zhou Yi, his bitter expression, Wang Lin let out a sigh. His right hand wiped past his own forehead, and the mark between his eyebrows seemed to dim a bit, like something had been taken out. He then pressed it onto Zhou Yi's forehead. Go, big brother Zhou. I gift the seal on Qing Shuang's memory to you. After you two reincarnate, there might be some connection between the two of you. Perhaps the two of you will meet. Zhou Yi bitterly nodded and clasped his hands toward Wang Lin. He walked toward the door with confusion, not knowing if he should hold on. He disappeared into the door. The fourth to leave was Qing Shui. He arrived next to Wang Lin and looked at Wang Lin with a smile. Junior brother, I'll wait for you on the immortal astral continent. If you find my daughter first, please take care of her for me. Qing Shui smiled and looked at Red Butterfly. His fatherly love was very strong. Red Butterfly's eyes were red and tears flowed. She walked out a few steps to say something, but she bit her lower lip and didn't speak in the end. She watched Xianxia walk toward the door and watched him disappear within. Tears flowed non-stop as she turned into a ray of red light and flew toward the door like a butterfly. 3,000 words in a major chapter. Wish that the like button for the video would break. The people beside Wang Lin departed one by one. Before leaving, each of them would clasp their hands at Wang Lin and then head for the door to pursue their dream. 13 knelt down in the void before Wang Lin. He raised his head, and his eyes were filled with determination. Teacher, 13 will be going. Even when my memory is sealed, I won't forget the kindness Master has shown me. Even when I reincarnate, I won't forget it. 13's words were filled with determination. His determination was extremely strong, and because of this, even if his memories were sealed, his instinct would remain. This instinct was the thing he cared the most about. His relationship with Wang Lin as Wang Lin's disciple. After 13, it was Situnan. Situnan had always been careful, and at this moment, he laughed as he flew toward the door. He took out a wine jug and threw it back at Wang Lin. Wang Lin caught the wine jug. I like to drink this life, but I don't know if I will in the next life. I'll give this jug to you. When you find me, give it to me. Haha, this old man must reincarnate as a king. Damn, it must be a king. Situnan's laughter echoed as he disappeared into the door. However, it was unknown if his wish could be fulfilled. To reincarnate as a king on the immortal astral continent was something both Wang Lin and Xuanluo were uncertain about. I hope it goes as he wishes. Wang Lin had a strange expression. He had a feeling things would not go as Situnan had imagined. The last to leave was Li Qianmei. She smiled at Wang Lin and didn't say much. She only said one line and then walked toward the door. I'll wait for you if you can find me. I'll wait for you reincarnation after reincarnation. Her words were gentle, but the determination in those words revealed her true personality. Li Qianmei had made a choice and wouldn't regret it. Outside the door, only Wang Lin and Xuanlu remained. Xuanluo looked at Wang Lin and slowly said, "They have all gone inside. This old man will activate my spells to resist the law of the immortal astral continent. When will you go in?" Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He looked at the door and suddenly said, "Can Senior send a few more people to reincarnate in the immortal astral continent?" "No problem. I originally thought there would be hundreds or thousands of people. Since there were less than 20 people, it's not too stressful for me. As long as you don't bring too many people, it won't matter." Xuanluo smiled. "I'll bother Senior to wait another 5 days for me. I'll bring some more people to reincarnate." Wang Lin's eyes became cold, and his words were calm. There were a few people Wang Lin hadn't brought because he didn't want to put too much pressure on Xuanluo. There wasn't any direct hatred or any hatred between them. However, for the peace of the cave world, they were in a could be killed or could not be killed situation. After hearing Xuanluo's words, Wang Lin changed his mind. Wang Lin clasped his hands at Xuanluo and then turned around, taking a step. His figure distorted and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was at the edge of the formation between the inner and outer realms. The new formation was something Wang Lin had made himself. With his familiarity with it, he didn't hesitate to step through. It only took half an incense stick of time for him to enter the ancient star system. The 5 masters of the ancient star system. The sovereign has been sealed by me, and Blue Dream has moved to the inner realm. That leaves Miao Yin, Void God, and 9 Heaven. If I leave them, these 3 will be trouble. Since they're weakened, I'll find them one by one and send them to reincarnate. Wang Lin's gaze was cold as he entered the ancient star system. His divine sense suddenly spread out in all directions. After the events at the core of the cave world, he had reached the peak of spirit void, and his ancient Tao inheritance was almost complete. At this moment, Wang Lin had the power to battle late-stage arcane void cultivators. At this time, with this cultivation along with his 7 essences and ancient Tao spells, these 3 injured masters of the ancient star system were not his match at all. As Wang Lin's powerful divine sense swept by, his eyes shined. He took a step forward and disappeared. In the eastern part of the ancient star system, there was a crescent-shaped planet. This planet had an irregular shape that was rare and was filled with death aura. There were even a few fierce beats on it. The planet was covered in yellow sand. There was no day on his planet, only night. Due it being incomplete, there was no grass or trees, only large rocks that rotated around the planet. At the top of the crescent shape, the yellow sand was floating in the air and the ground was dark. There was a rift there, and in the middle of the rift sat an old man. His face was pale and his eyes were closed as he healed. However, black blood would burst out from the corner of his mouth and drip to the ground, creating sizzling sounds. As he healed, smoke-like aura spread out from the planet and entered his body to help him heal. This old man was none other than Devil Master Nine Heaven, who had been seriously injured by Blue Dream. Back then, his Joss Flame realm had been destroyed, and his soul had taken damage. He had barely survived, and had managed to maintain the remaining life force inside his body. He was using the death aura from the planet to restore his Joss Flame realm. The surroundings were silent, and the sky was dark, but the old man suddenly raised his head. His eyes opened, and his pupils shrank. At the same time, a bright light erupted in the dark sky. As the light shined on the planet, a young man in white walked out. He had a head of white hair and a cold expression. Wang Lin's appearance caused Nine Heaven to gasp. He didn't hesitate to enter the rift to head to the depths of the planet. Wang Lin's body remained unmoving and his right hand tore at the earth below. The void before him rumbled, and a giant rift expanded to the planet below. The rift touched the planet, and the planet trembled as it cracked open. This crack quickly expanded. Thunderous rumbles echoed, and the earth split too fast. In a flash, Wang Lin saw Nine Heaven, who was charging into the depths of the planet. Devil Master Nine Heaven almost lost his mind. He clearly felt the earth behind him being torn apart by a powerful force. He could feel Wang Lin's gaze locked onto his back. Wang Lin, are you going to kill me? There is no deep hatred between us. Let me go and I promise to never enter the inner realm. Devil Master Nine Heaven's scalp went numb and a huge wave was set off in his heart. Wang Lin's power surprised him. He never expected Wang Lin to become even stronger in such a short period of time. Don't be afraid. I won't kill you, I will send you to reincarnate. As Wang Lin spoke, he raised his left hand toward the planet below. He used both his hands to use heaven ripping at the planet below. If you want to kill, then kill. What is this about sending me to reincarnate? Nine Heaven screamed and desperately formed seals. He arranged all his spells before him and took out a large amount of treasures to resist this shocking force. The earth rumbled and the planet began to collapse. Cracks spread like crazy, and in just a moment the crescent-shaped planet was torn in half by Wang Lin. The impact from the collapse turned into a powerful force that spread across the star system. Under this impact, popping sounds came from before Devil Master Nine Heaven. All his spells and treasures collapsed. He coughed out blood as he clenched his teeth and wanted to escape. However, Wang Lin silently appeared before him, and Wang Lin's palm landed directly between his eyebrows. I am indeed here to send you off to reincarnate and not kill you. Wang Lin's calm words echoed. This was the last sound Nine Heaven heard. When Wang Lin's palm landed, his soul was sealed and put away by Wang Lin. Wang Lin easily sealed Devil Master Nine Heaven, who had been injured by Tao Master Blue Dream. From when he arrived to when he sealed Nine Heaven, it had only been a few breaths of time. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he looked to the west. He could feel that was where Miao Yin was healing. Miao Yin was on a planet filled with spiritual energy. From afar, the planet was a water planet. There were no continents on it, only some islands. The rest of the planet was covered by the sea. The sea was not blue but golden. Waves were set off in the golden sea by the wind. There were some beasts swimming in the sea, sometimes revealing their shadows. They were very large. Miao Yin was sitting in the deepest part of the sea, surrounded by darkness. However, if you looked closely, you would see a sea of white bones. These white bones were mostly animals' bones. As Miao Yin healed in the depths of the sea, there seemed to be a roar that spread through the water through a special method. Wang Lin, Blue Dream, the two of you will not die a good death. Miao Yin's eyes opened wide, his expression distorted. He had been injured by Blue Dream, and his cultivation level had fallen to Spirit Void. It would take at least 100 years to return to his peak. He could only heal like crazy to try to shorten the time. As he roared, Miao Yin reached at the sea with his right hand. A vortex appeared and a long black sea snake trembled and didn't dare to struggle as it was caught by the vortex. Miao Yin grabbed the head of the sea snake and bit its neck. He inhaled and drained all the essences of the sea snake. The sea snake instantly turned into a skeleton and was thrown aside. He was about to continue to cultivate when his expression changed greatly and he looked up. The sky distorted above the golden ocean and Wang Lin walked out. His eyes were like lightning as he looked at the sea below. Miao Yin, today I came to send you off to reincarnate. 3,000 words in a major chapter, hoping to be shared, hoping to get the like button hit for the video. Deep inside the sea, Miao Yin had a fierce expression, but his pupils shrank and his eyes were filled with fear. You've already killed my avatar and taken my avatar's soul. Our grudge should have been over, so why are you here to kill me? It's as difficult for cultivators like us to reach this cultivation level. If you treat me like this today, someone will definitely do it to you in the future. Dao Master Miao Yin's voice was sharp and it echoed from the bottom of the sea. The sound spread across the golden ocean and set off a huge wave. A large vortex formed, and it rushed toward Miao Yin. At this moment, Wang Lin was in the sky and Miao Yin was below the sea. They were separated by the vortex, but they could clearly see each other. Miao Yin didn't escape like 9 heaven. He knew that his cultivation level had dropped too much, and he had no chance of escaping from Wang Lin. I am not going to kill you today. I am just here to send you to reincarnate. Wang Lin looked at Miao Yin, who was inside the vortex. He raised his hand and casually reached toward Miao Yin. A giant palm appeared and charged toward the sea below. Miao Yin's expression changed greatly as he stared at Wang Lin. He struggled greatly in his heart. He understood Wang Lin better than 9 heaven. When 9 heaven heard Wang Lin say reincarnate, he thought Wang Lin was going to kill him, so he had tried to escape. But Miao Yin didn't think so. Reincarnate where? As the giant palm reached toward him, Miao Yin let out a sharp scream. Immortal astral continent. As Wang Lin's words echoed, a thunderous rumble rang out. The giant palm penetrated the sea vortex and grabbed Miao Yin. Miao Yin's heart trembled and he bitterly gave up all useless resistance. He closed his eyes and allowed Wang Lin to grab him. After he was sealed, he was placed inside Wang Lin's storage space and fused with his avatar. The sea became calm like nothing had happened. Wang Lin turned and walked toward the sky. There is still Heaven Master Void God. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he looked into the distance. He found where Heaven Master Void God's original body was. Wang Lin had killed Heaven Master Void Goddess Avatar and seriously injured his original body. After that, he never entered the inner realm, so their problems ended there. But leaving this person would be a big problem in the future. He didn't want to leave all the problems for Blue Dream and Master South Cloud. He was going to resolve it himself. His gaze swept past the stars and his body disappeared. In the southern part of the ancient star system, there was an area filled with debris. There was originally a planet here, but it had collapsed, creating an area of death covered in rocks. Heaven Master Void God remained here. He had given up going to the inner realm and even the idea of fighting. However, even he didn't know if this was temporary or permanent. At least for now, he didn't dare to enter the inner realm. He felt extreme fear in his heart toward Wang Lin. At this moment, he was sitting above a rock, cultivating. He was absorbing the power from the stars to nourish his body and feeling the changes around him. If no one disturbed him, he could sit here for thousands of years. Until his cultivation was fully restored, until he reached his peak once more, until he could come out and shake the cave world. He was confident if no one came to bother him. In truth, even if someone came to disturb him, Heaven Master Void God didn't mind, as long as that person was not Wang Lin. However, while this thought was beautiful, reality was cruel. On this day, the star system looked normal, but an invisible pressure descended on this area. The arrival of this pressure caused this place to become unstable. Large amounts of scattered rocks shattered and were blown away. From afar, it looked like a halo scattering. Heaven Master Void God suddenly opened his eyes and revealed a bitter expression. He saw the white figure he could never forget walking toward him. That head of white hair was like a nightmare that caused his heart to tremble. He still came. Heaven Master Void God silently pondered as he looked at Wang Lin gradually closing in, and his eyes were filled with despair. Wang Lin, back then I wanted to possess you and wanted to kill you, but I failed. My avatar died and I made a vow to never enter the inner realm in my life. Can you let me go just this once? Heaven Master Void God rarely talked like this, but he had to at this moment. As he spoke, he stood up and clasped his hands at Wang Lin. Wang Lin stood on a rock 1,000 feet away from Heaven Master Void God. After silently pondering for a bit, he slowly spoke. You are not suitable to exist here. I am going to the immortal astral continent. Many people have decided to reincarnate to the immortal astral continent. You go as well so I can be at ease. Heaven Master Void God's face changed and countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but in the end, he let out a long sigh. You are going to leave and don't feel safe leaving this old man here. Have you thought that once you have been gone for a while, new generations will be born in the ancient star system? Some might be stronger than this old man. Are you going to wipe them all out? I can kill them all, but I can seal the various clans of the ancient star system and take the third step cultivators to be reincarnated. If they don't obey, then I'll kill them. Wang Lin's words were calm, but the meaning in his words would shock anyone. Heaven Master Void God didn't speak for a while. He looked at Wang Lin with an even more fearful gaze. Crazy, he is really crazy. He is forcing me to reincarnate. What choice do I have? Heaven Master Void God revealed a miserable smile as he gave up resisting and closed his eyes. Wang Lin waved his sleeve and put Heaven Master Void God in his storage space before leaving. The Kang Meng clan was a clan of the outer realm that had also participated in the war. Although the clan wasn't large, they had a third step ancestor. This ancestor had chosen to escape when he noticed the situation wasn't good, and he no longer came out. The clan was located in a region with almost 100 planets, but on this day, Wang Lin closed in on the Kang Meng clan. His arrival caused a thunderous rumble with each step, sending powerful shockwaves toward the Kang Meng sect. He stepped into the atmosphere of a planet and calmly walked toward the highest peak. On the top of the mountain there was a large temple, and a middle-aged man was sitting inside. The moment Wang Lin arrived, his eyes opened, revealing fear. He was about to get up when his body trembled and a right hand appeared behind him. It gently pressed down on his shoulder, keeping him pressed on the ground, and he was unable to struggle. I am sending you off to reincarnate. This was the last thing he heard before his vision went black. A terrifying force that filled him with fear entered through his shoulder and sealed him. A moment later, Wang Lin left the Kang Meng clan. No one knew he had arrived, and no one knew he had left. As he left, Wang Lin raised his right hand and gently waved at the area where the Kang Meng clan was located. More than a dozen ancient leaves appeared and formed a vortex. It flew toward the Kang Meng clan, sealing the star system and the entire clan. From now on, the entire clan's power to enter the stars are sealed. Their cultivation can never break past Nirvana Shatterer. They are never to step foot among the stars. Wang Lin waved his sleeve and walked away. As he walked forward, all the clans with a third step cultivator suffered the same fate in the ancient star system. The third step cultivators were forced to reincarnate and the entire clan was sealed. In order to keep the inner realm safe for countless years, Wang Lin did this shocking and tyrannical thing. He took all the remaining third step cultivators with him. He sealed all the clans he passed along the way, even ones without a third step cultivator. As a result, it would become very difficult for third step cultivators to appear in the ancient star system. For countless years, there wouldn't be a cultivators among the stars, as they wouldn't be able to leave their planets. Because Wang Lin had left mysterious seals around their clans and planets. There is no need to worry about the ancient star system. As for the other places, it is not time to explore them. Yet Wang Lin stood outside the formation separating the inner and outer realms. He looked back at the ancient star system for a long time before he entered the formation and headed to Al-Heaven. At this point, Wang Lin had done the last thing he needed to do in the cave world, so he was about to leave. In Al-Heaven, the golden door gave off a dazzling glow. Xuan Luo was sitting there as he looked into the distance, and he saw Wang Lin. Wang Lin's figure appeared, and he bowed at Xuan Luo. Junior has finished all my preparations and has brought a few more people. I hope Senior will cast a spell to reincarnate them. Wang Lin waved his sleeve and 8 people appeared. Their expressions were gloomy and their hearts were filled with reluctance, but they didn't dare to resist. After you all reincarnate, there will be no grievance between us. I hope you all know what's good for yourselves. Wang Lin's words were calm, and he waved his right hand. A powerful wind pushed the 8 of them into the dark door. Senior Junior is about to leave. We will meet in the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin looked back at the stars and suddenly turned around. He turned into a ray of light as he charged at the door and disappeared inside. Xuan Lu stood up and looked at the door with a serious expression. After Wang Lin entered, the door rumbled and slowly closed. Half an hour later, when it was about to close completely, a ray of ghostly light suddenly came from the depths and disappeared into the door. Tonight there will be 2 to 3 new chapters. Leo will do his utmost to make up for the chapters missing from the last 2 days. You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. The dragon's body was the path to reincarnation. It led far away with no end in sight. This path was not suitable for Wang Lin. He stood on the dragon and looked at the ice and then into the distance. For an instant, he seemed to be able to see Li Qianmei and company make their way down the road toward reincarnation. Wang Lin, if you want to protect the soul, then you must take her and force your way to the immortal astral continent. To resist the law of the immortal astral continent, you must leave this road. You may become lost. You may die. Xuan Luo's voice echoed in Wang Lin's heart. The law of the immortal astral continent is invisible and can be felt in the form of pressure. If you can resist it, then you may be able to walk out. However, even with me helping, there is only 50% chance of it succeeding. Since ancient times, I have never heard of a Grand Empyrean help someone resist the law of the immortal astral continent. You should be the first. This is your own fate, so there is no need to be too grateful toward this old man. If you can walk out, this old man will take you as my disciple and take you back to the ancient Dao clan. If you end up dying, I'll help you take care of the people that reincarnated you. Take care. Xuan Luo let out a sigh. He had really taken a liking to Wang Lin. He intended to pass everything to Wang Lin and let Wang Lin guard the ancient Dao clan during his reincarnation period. He even planned to help Wang Lin see if it was possible to enter the immemorial God realm and become the sun. Although this matter was unpredictable and difficult, he had thought of it. The immortal astral continent has countless cave worlds, and almost every sect has their own cave world. If you want life to appear in a cave world, you need a heavenly Dao. Although there aren't many heavenly Daos, they aren't rare either. Throughout the passage of time, I can imagine countless lives in the cave worlds have opened the door and tried to walk out, but they all died to the law of the immortal astral continent. When you follow the dragon road toward the immortal astral continent, you might see many portals. These portals are the other cave worlds of the immortal astral continent. You will also see countless bodies. They are those that died over the countless years to the law of the immortal astral continent. I don't know what kind of consequences there will be when someone from the cave world enters the immortal astral continent, but I hope you will be the first to succeed. I can stay for too long in the celestial land. I'll wait for you for 10 years if you re not out in 10 years. You should be dead. Xuan Luo's words contained a sense of age as they echoed in Wang Lin's mind. His figure appeared before Wang Lin. His gaze was kind as he looked at Wang Lin like he was looking as his own descendant. With the law of the immortal astral continent, I can leave any mark on you to see how far you have traveled or if you are safe. The only thing I can use to judge is time. 10 years. Wang Lin, after 10 years, my spell that is helping you resist the law of the immortal astral continent will break. The power of the law of the immortal astral continent will reach its peak. Perhaps only a firm heart would make sure you re not lost. You need to arrive on the immortal astral continent in 10 years. Wang Lin silently pondered as he looked at Xuan Luo. He would forever remember everything Xuan Luo had done for him. Now, before you leave, tell me, are you willing to take me as your teacher? Xuan Luo's voice was gentle. When it entered Wang Lin's ears, it was warm. The determination to still be willing to accept Wang Lin right now, instead of waiting until Wang Lin had made it to the immortal astral continent, made Wang Lin's heart tremble. Teacher Wang Lin no longer had any reason to not accept this heavy kindness and responsibility. Wang Lin understood that this meant that he now had a connection and responsibility toward the ancient Dao clan that he could not give up. This meant he would protect the ancient Dao clan, even if he would have to pay the price with his life. This was meant to repay everything Xuan Luo had done for him. Xuan Luo laughed. He was very happy. He looked at Wang Lin and helped Wang Lin stand up. He carefully looked at Wang Lin, and his laughter echoed. "Disciple, teacher will wait for you on the immortal astral continent." As Xuan Luo spoke, he waved his right hand and a part of the ice along the dragon road melted, creating a gap. Bursts of ghostly light came from the gap. This light was part of the law of the immortal astral continent. "You re my disciple, so I'll give you a gift for becoming my disciple." Xuan Luo hit his forehead with his right hand and bit the tip of his tongue to spit out a mouthful of blood. The blood gave off a red glow and turned into a blood dragon. The blood dragon roared as it surrounded Wang Lin and took him toward the gap in the ice. "Teacher is one of the 9 sons, so a mouthful of my essence blood will protect you for a while. I'll now cast a spell to help you resist the law of the immortal astral continent." Wang Lin rushed toward the gap with the blood dragon. His right hand reached toward the void and rays of ghostly light flew out. These rays of ghostly light were all the living things and souls in Wang Lin's storage space. Aside from the madman, almost everyone was there. Shu Liguo, Lu Jinbiao, the mosquito beasts and so on. Everyone that was inside Wang Lin's storage space appeared. Even the moongazer serpent, which was too big, showed signs of appearing. "These creatures have followed disciple for a long time. I asked teacher to send them to the immortal just as Wang Lin spoke." The group of mosquito beasts led by Wang Lin's mosquito king revealed madness in their eyes. They desperately flew out toward the gap in the ice. It seemed there was something they desired a lot outside, and they rushed out like crazy. This sudden change shocked Wang Lin, and even Xuan Luo was startled. The invisible law of the immortal astral continent filled the dark void. However, the mosquito beasts didn't show any discomfort but began to go through a shocking change. Their bodies rapidly expanded, their heads became even larger, and popping sound echoed in their bodies. They gave off a ghostly glow, and looking at how comfortable they looked, this was like their real home. However, shortly after, a shocking change occurred. For some reason, as the mosquito beasts felt comfortable, they let out painful screams. A large amount of mosquito beasts exploded as they howled in pain. They turned into a mist of blood and flesh, and dissipated. Wang Lin was surprised, and was about to rescue them when those that didn't collapse expanded once more until each one was the size of a mountain. However, soon, even more mosquito beasts collapsed, but the rest continued to grow. In particular, Wang Lin's mosquito king was covered in blood, letting out miserable roars. It seemed to be fighting a certain kind of force and seemed to be fusing with something. Wang Lin and the mosquito king had a deep connection and was about to help without hesitation, but he was stopped by Xuan Luo. The mosquito king also saw Wang Lin's intent to help, but it struggled to fly away. It looked at Wang Lin with determination in its eyes. "Don't stop. Your herd of beasts is extraordinary." Xuan Luo's eyes shined as he stared at the mosquito beast, and his voice was serious. "They are adapting to the void filled with the law of the immortal astral continent, and from their appearance, their ancestors used to live in a place like this a long time ago. For them, it is like returning to their hometown. Their souls can sense that this is their home, but they didn't grow up here. This is causing a problem with their souls and leading to their deaths. This is like a fish that has adapted to life out of the water, but then when returning to the water, they are likely to drown. You shouldn't stop them. It is an important metamorphosis for them." Xuan Luo stared at the mosquito beasts and pondered. Just as Xuan Luo spoke more, a large amount of mosquito beasts died, and now less than 100 remained. However, each of them was shockingly large. Their bodies expanded like crazy and their expressions revealed pain. Although countless had died, not a single mosquito beast chose to retreat. Their minds were clear, and they could feel that this opportunity was the most critical one for their evolution. Once they succeeded, they could become like their ancestors. Their memories of their ancestors from their souls erupted as they expanded. In particular, Wang Lin's mosquito king was the largest and was shocking. Its body was hundreds of thousands of feet tall, about the same size as the one Wang Lin had seen in the rift back in the wind celestial realm in the past. A terrifying aura erupted from its body. Half an instance of time passed. Wang Lin was anxious, and now the less than 100 remaining mosquito beasts collapsed once more. This time, Wang Lin could no longer wait. He would rather see the mosquito beast fail its evolution than see it die. The Mosquito King was like a relative to Wang Lin. It had accompanied him for more than 2,000 years. As the mosquito beasts collapsed, Wang Lin rushed out from the ice and charged at the collapsing mosquito beasts. As he closed in, a heaven-shaking roar came from the collapse. 9 roars followed that. These sounds connected together, and even the void filled with the law of the immortal astral continent trembled. As the mosquito beasts collapsed, the Mosquito King rushed out. It was the size of a planet, and its large mouth was big enough to make anyone's scalp go numb. Behind him, 9 golden mosquito beasts followed. Each of them was as large as the Mosquito King Wang Lin had seen back in the Wind Celestial Realm. They all gave off a ferocious aura, and when Xuan Luo saw this, his eyes lit up. Rumor has it that the immortal astral continent was a wasteland at the beginning. Then the God Realm appeared and created life. Then stars appeared, but was under the continent. Then the law of the immortal astral continent descended like the sea. 9 different beasts appeared at the same time as the ancient ancestor. This beast confused with the chaos of the immortal astral continent. Good day, Xuan Luo's eyes widened and were filled with disbelief. Good night, everyone. We will meet again tomorrow. Just wait a moment. Remember to like the video. Chapter Cultivation. After waiting a while in the garden, Elder Sun came back with a dark expression. His face was full of anger. Earlier, when he talked to the patriarch about the matter, some of his apprentice brothers ridiculed him. He thought, wait until I get all the gourds and create an immortal pill that will greatly increase my cultivation. Let's see who will be laughing then. After entering the garden, Elder Sun saw Wang Lin and huffed. Wang Lin, from today on you are my, Sundaju's disciple. You must cultivate properly to not disgrace your master's name. He tossed out a small pouch and said, this is the inner disciple's identification. It also acts as a bag of holding. It can hold a lot of things. Your clothes and instructions to your cultivation method are stored inside. Check it out yourself. Wang Lin quickly picked it up. He was very excited, and his mind was filled with the thoughts of his parents' expectations. This time, he wholeheartedly called Sun Daju master. Sun Daju replied with a grunt. He shifted his gaze and said, from now on, you will live in the room in the back. You can leave without my permission. With that statement, he picked up a pebble and threw it at the garden gate behind him. There was only a purple light when the pebble hit the gate and it disintegrated into a fine powder. After this display, Sun Daju gave Wang Lin a cold look and walked into his room. Wang Lin's pupils contracted. He was terrified. He held his bag of holding and entered his room. The room was small and only contained a bed. Wang Lin didn't mind. He sat on the bed, examined the bag of holding. The little gray bag didn't look that special. Wang Lin turned the bag upside down on the ground, and several things fell out. There was a set of red clothes and a little booklet. Wang Lin's face lit up. He picked up the little booklet and excitedly opened it. On the first page it read, 3 stages of QI condensation. He read until midnight using the light of the oil lamp. He closed the book and felt he had a bit more understanding of cultivation. This booklet contained 3 stages of concentrating QI, which were considered the most basic stages. In the booklet, it was mentioned that there were a total of 15 stages of QI condensation. Only after reaching the 3rd stage could one gain access to the method for later stages. The so-called QI condensation was to absorb the spiritual energy from heaven and earth to change the body and build a foundation for the future. This was also a test of how good one's natural talents was. The more talented one was, the faster they could absorb spiritual energy into their body. Naturally, their cultivation speed would be quick, however. If one's talent was average, then perhaps they would never reach the 3rd layer in their lifetime. Some couldn't even reach the 1st layer. The 3 stages of QI condensation booklet became Wang Lin's treasure. He immediately memorized the method for the first 3 layers in his mind. He sat cross-legged with his eyes closed and began to breath with the 1 long 3 short method stated in the booklet. 1 long means to take a deep breath, while 3 short means to take 3 short breaths that were 1/3 the length of a normal breath. Using this abnormal breathing method allows one to quickly absorb spiritual energy into their body. The booklet indicated that the first time one practiced breathing technique, they would feel as if there are ants crawling inside their body. This was caused by spiritual energy entering the body. The booklet said not to be nervous. Just relax and imagine yourself becoming nothing. then become one with heaven and earth. After a long time, Wang Lin helplessly found that not only did he not feel anything, but he was out of breath thanks to this abnormal breathing. Wang Lin sighed. He knew that most of the disciples here had a lot of talent, and that this booklet was written for them. His talent was only average. How could he compete with them? But he wasn't discouraged. After taking a few breaths, he continued the breathing technique. The night went by slowly. By the time morning came, Wang Lin still wasn't able to feel any spiritual energy enter this body. His head was dizzy from not sleeping at all that night as he got up and opened the door to go out. Outside, there was a gentle breeze that carried the scent of medication. He took a few deep breaths, but wasn't able to get rid of his exhaustion. He missed the spring water-filled gourd. If he could drink some of that spring water, he wouldn't be this tired. But right now was not the time to act rashly. He was very confident in where he hid the stone bead and the gourds. He searched almost half the mountain to find a secluded location. Even if they happened upon the location, they wouldn't find his treasure. He strolled into the herb garden until he found a rock. Wang Lin sat down on the rock and started to cultivate. After a while, he felt like ants were crawling in his body. He was stunned. Right as he was about to continue, his teacher shouted, "Wang Lin, what are you doing? Quickly come out of there. I am telling you now, never cultivate in the herb garden." Wang Lin opened his eyes and saw Sun Dazhu sullenly staring at him. He silently got up and left the herb garden. Sun Dazhu coldly snorted, "You sure know how to find a good location. I am growing my herbs here because it has the most spiritual energy in the garden, and you come and suck it away. If any of these herbs die because of this, even our lives couldn't compensate for them." Wang Lin glared at Sun Dazhu and respectfully said, "Disciple, didn't he know any better? Disciple will never cultivate here again." Sun Dazhu's expression returned to normal. Then he added, "However, if you can find me another gourd, while I can let you cultivate in the herb garden, I can give you a low-grade spirit stone. With it, your QI condensation will be a lot easier." Wang Lin lowered his head. A look of ridicule flashed across his face. Then he said, "Disciple can go check the spring in the mountains again. If my luck is good, I might be able to find another one." Sun Dazhu pondered a little and said, "You go have a look. Remember, if you bring me back another gourd, I'll reward you with a low-grade spirit stone." Wang Lin looked up at Sun Dazhu and asked, "Is what master is saying true? If I bring back a gourd, you will give me a spirit stone?" Sun Dazhu had a happy look on his face as he said, "Yes, as long as I get a gourd, I'll give you a low-grade spirit stone." Wang Lin secretly sneered, but on the surface he respectfully nodded in response. Sun Dazhu's right hand formed a seal and he muttered a few words, then he threw his arm and the gate swung open. He rubbed his beard and said, "Go ahead, leave now and come back quickly." 4,000 words in a major chapter. Read an extra 1,000 words, wishing for the like button on the video to help. Chapter Studying the Restrictions. TL Void. Metal Max. TLC PD. Ed. Demon Killer. After obtaining the best quality Lingxi, Wang Lin had actually thought of returning back. But at the time in the first barrier, the circumstances were critical. If he had decided to go back, and without Hunchback Meng in the front rear, then he wouldn't be so sure if he could safely pass through. And even if he were able to go back through pain and hardships, then the chances of him returning back here would be close to zero. He definitely wouldn't be able to be so lucky as to pass the first barrier as he did. With Wang Lin's character, he refused to gamble rashly, as he couldn't afford to lose. However, according to Wang Lin's analysis, since 1,000 years ago, Hunchback Meng's group of 4 was able to return in the end, then there is possibly a return transfer array in this place. Otherwise Hunchback Meng's group of 4, out of fear of these events, wouldn't dare to come back to this place. Unfortunately, the jade strip left behind by Hunchback Meng doesn't contain any introduction regarding this place, and the legacy objects that they obtained was not in the hands of Hunchback Meng. Wang Lin thought of something. He believed that if he could get hold of these legacy items, then he would certainly be able to find a way out. After examining all around carefully, Wang Lin walked forward. Before long, he suddenly stopped and stared at a piece of mountain rock in the distance. The rock was concealed and was emitting bursts of spiritual force fluctuations. The sky was dark, and like a rock which oppressed the minds of people, this heaviness gives you a feeling of nausea. Wang Lin, after passing through the gap between 2 restrictions, breathed a sigh of relief. As he looked below, he had only gone 300 feet, which took several hours. With every step, he wanted to be absolutely correct before he dared to put his foot down. Looking up, peak of the mountain was simply out of sight. If this rate were to be maintained, then Wang Lin didn't know how many years he would need before he would be able to step onto the summit. He sighed inwardly. If it can be said that he depended on luck to pass the first barrier, then this second barrier, he needed to depend on himself. Wang Lin stayed hesitant for a bit. His complexion had become a bit gloomy. With his present cultivation of Jidan stage, this place is actually too dangerous. But even upon retreat, the degree of danger remains the same. In order to continue living, one can only brace oneself and walk forward. Wang Lin pondered a bit. He came up with an idea. As he didn't continue to go forward, but instead withdrew several steps to arrive at the place of the two restrictions which he had just passed, and carefully retreating from there all the way down the mountain. At the base of the mountain, he stopped at the place where the restrictions had just started appearing. He carefully examined the restriction while squatting down. There was a stretch of disorderly underbrush occupying an area of about 100 feet. At the foot of the mountain, this underbrush was in great quantity, but as one progressed upwards, the underbrush was lesser. At first glance, this place looks ordinary, but if one looks closely, then one would discover that the weeds here, which appear to be disorderly, actually contain within them some bizarre rules and regulations. Wang Lin continued to look. He stared at each and every weed in this pile of underbrush for a long time. Each time he finished examining, he would take out a jade strip and record down his insights into it. In 3 days' time, Wang Lin had recorded every single weed in this place, each and every swing, each and every stripe, all had been completely recorded. He had wanted to find a way to undo this restriction. Wang Lin knew that if he tries to forcefully break through by himself, then he basically had no hope of ever setting foot on the peak, and this matter could be regarded as fundamentally impossible to accomplish. And the higher up towards the peak one goes, the might of the restrictions would also be certainly greater. Routes of passage through might be very few, and highly likely a situation may arise where there is no way through. Once that time comes, if he hasn't prepared in advance, then he would certainly meet a dead end. If one to survive this calamity, then it is important to grasp this mountain of restrictions. To understand it, he must delve deeper and deeper while examining, so that his chances of survival become greater, and apart from this there is no other way. Therefore Wang Lin had retreated back from above, and arriving to the side of the restrictions, began carefully researching. These restrictions are different from formation method. Formation method is the usage of a particular means in a particular manner to form powerful spells of varying sizes. This involves matters of incomparable complexity, so many exhaust their entire lives to study, while only managing to get a glimpse into the basics of it. Restrictions are actually a kind of formation method, but this spell has flexibility. It can use to full potential people's minds and change in accordance to their thoughts in simple terms. Restrictions are the study of the divine, those with great divine powers, with just divine thoughts, and are able to instantly set down restrictions even after 1,000 years, as long as the divine thought is not extinguished. Then the restriction will continue to operate. Some restrictions, even after a person dies along with the divine thoughts, will continue to remain in operation, forming an independent consciousness. One can say there are all kinds of variations, and except for practitioners of it, very few people are able to thoroughly and incisively trace it. There are 2 ways to get rid of restrictions, out of which one is the simply using force to break it. This method requires a strong cultivation, which an average person can possess. The second method is to study and understand the principles behind the construction of the restriction. After understanding the rules to a certain extent, one would naturally be able to break it. Wang Lin was using precisely this second method. After he had engraved the first restriction in the jade strip, he began to study it. During his time as a soul devourer, he had thoroughly studied and researched formation methods, so while studying restrictions he wasn't baffled. Time wore on. After 10 days, Wang Lin stared at this place, while he suddenly grasped out with his right hand, and immediately the cluster of flowers all around began to sway. By this point, Wang Lin, as if was already long aware of the typical changes of these cluster of flowers, as they almost simultaneously swayed. He sometimes swayed left, sometimes right. During this period of time, these 2 places were the one included. At first glance, it seemed as if his right hand didn't have any pattern, but if one looked carefully, then can find that his every move, is same as the rhythm in which the cluster of flowers that were touched were moving. Within a few breaths' time, the frequency of the swaying of Wang Lin's right hand had already exceeded a certain limit, as if his right hand had spawned countless clones as soon as an afterimage would appear. Often another afterimage would also have just appeared, and another afterimage would rapidly disappear. After 10 breaths' time, Wang Lin, with a look of concentration and a forehead dripping with sweat, he suddenly retracted his right hand. Suddenly, a red light flashed out from the thick patch of grass and chased after Wang Lin's right hand. The moment Wang Lin retracted his right hand, he once again started swaying it, and with that motion, the red light became weaker and weaker before completely disappearing. When he had retracted his right hand, he had already lost sensation in that hand. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he stared at the weeds which had already returned to normal, and no clues could be observed. Here, the restriction S role was to forcefully kill the enemy, and once one enters inside, then he shall be immediately killed. If there is some cultivator that resists with his moves and tries to run out, then this red light will appear, causing to remain undead without end. Wang Lin, after a few days of studying, had become somewhat knowledgeable about this restriction, and just now had conducted a slight experiment. The same experiment over these days, Wang Lin tried no fewer than 10 times. When he had started, he would be compelled to withdraw after 3 breaths and was almost injured by the red light. But now he was able to persist for 10 breaths and was able to resolve the issue of red light coming out to chase. Wang Lin believed that given enough time, he could persist for a longer time. In other words, this meant that he could now enter this restriction, and although he cannot break the restriction, but he could remain safe within the restriction for a period of 10 breaths, and if exits it, then even the red light wouldn't stop him. There was an expression of excitement in Wang Lin's eyes. Although the restriction in this mountain peak are simple, but Wang Lin believed that if he looked for the right path, and he sticks to it, then passing this second barrier is by no means impossible. And moreover, at the beginning, it could be said that Wang Lin's goal was to research this restriction for passing through this second barrier. But now, he had gained another purpose. The more he studied, the more he was intrigued by the marvelousness of the restrictions. Before this, Wang Lin hadn't thought that if one could master these restrictions, then one would be able to wield such powerful force. For example, this disorderly grass restriction Wang Lin is now able to pass safely, but cannot lay it out himself. The main reason is that he has not yet fully researched it. As soon as he finishes researching and integrates it within his body, then setting out such a restriction would naturally be no longer of contention. Although this restriction may not have great power, but it has a bizarre nature and nevertheless it's not bad. Wang Lin took a deep breath, and with a trace of excitement immersed himself in the study of restrictions. Time wore on, and until a month later, Wang Lin suddenly put away the jade strip, flashed into the disorderly patch of grass. The moment that he entered this area, immediately in a flash, a trace of red mist began to suddenly emerge from all directions, but the weed on the ground suddenly started swaying fiercely and turning into a sharp weapon all shined out, disappearing into the red fog. At the same time, bursts of whistling sound came from all directions, as sharp weapon came down like a curtain of rain, venting out in full flow towards Wang Lin. Wang Lin was calm, his eyes carefully observing. The venting out of the sharp sword was a bit unexpected, but he walked forward, as if walking in his own garden. Countless sharp swords instantaneously arrived near his body. Wang Lin calmly and unhurriedly moved his right hands in accordance to his thoughts. This seemed like a slow movement, but for some unknown reason, it caused those flying swords in front of his body to unexpectedly fall. If there was a bystander here, then surely seeing such a scene, he would be moved. This clearly is this place S restriction S boundary that was touched. Just now had been able to grasp the intertwining technique. Wang Lin did not know about intertwining technique. He just knew that his hands would certainly faster than the sword, and with this thought, it was naturally fast. With his right hand in a flash, he drew a circle mid-air. This simple action, Wang Lin had become aware of after gaining comprehending through meditating over his research for a long time, and although it is simple, but while waving in a circle, Wang Lin's right hand is changing and making thousands individual motions all in one, without the slightest pause. After this circle was completed, those venting sharp swords, one by one immediately slowed down, and suddenly turning into densely packed disorderly weeds and leaves, began to dance around in mid-air near Wang Lin. Wang Lin had maintained a look of calmness from the start to finish, From the moment he had stepped into the bushes, he did stop for even half a breath, and continued to walk forward. And this time, also still without exception, as we walked, those disorderly, chaotic weed leaves spread out in a way so as to not dare to prevent his footsteps. In this way, Wang Lin passed through all the way, and was about to go out when suddenly from all around, red light flashed out, and a few of these red light had appeared. Wang Lin, on a whim, raised his right hand with the palm facing the sky, fiercely grasped out. Suddenly, all the red light, as if seized by an invisible hands, under the grasp had been broken into fragments, although they again grouped together very soon, but they threw themselves underfoot, and turned into a red light path, spreading straight beyond the restriction. Wang Lin looked as usual, as he stepped on it, and came out of the restriction. After he came out, he, looking at the sky, issued a long whistle. After consuming so many days' time, finally he had completely mastered this restriction here. His interest in restrictions had been sharpened to the extreme. As he turned, Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and suddenly with a sneer, he made the restriction fluctuate with his right hand. Immediately inside this restriction, the weeds changed direction immediately, and if one looked closer, then one would find that comparing to earlier, it had become much more complex. "If someone is coming after me, then you better be careful," Wang Lin muttered, as just now, by virtue of his understanding of this restriction, he had added another layer on top of it. In other words, if someone steps into this restriction, no matter whichever way he tries to break it, after coming into contact with his second restriction, then, if that time is caught by surprise, then it would likely become the cause of his death. Of course, if he chooses to use the same method as Wang Lin, then the difficulty of researching it would also increase by several times. A sneer appeared on Wang Lin's face as he glanced around him once, then all of a sudden moved downwards to another thick patch of grass, so that the grass restrictions all around the mountain peak all had their difficulty increased. After having done all this, Wang Lin pondered for a bit, and still feeling it be not vicious enough, so he blocked all the gaps between the restrictions in the surroundings. This way, if one wanted to enter this mountain peak, then must necessarily enter into a restriction. After all this, Wang Lin lifting his footsteps and walked upwards. At this time, halfway up the mountain peak, Six Desires Devil Lord with his eyes staring at a group of thick clouds in front of him, which had been floating here for 3 days. These 3 days in the mist motionless, despite how many spells Six Desires Devil Lord casted, it was unable to get it to disperse. He looked a little gloomy, and on his side, the youth who had been following him stood bewildered as he blankly stared at the fog. Six Desires Devil Lord's vision swept across this person, and looked behind him. As his mouth curved into a sneer, he had walked all the way, the first barrier he had entered the glacial world. And this glacial world he was already very familiar, although he did not have the Goudies ice wind sail. But how could his 1,000 years' worth of preparation fall short? At that time, when at the entrance to the sea, he had said to everyone that the second half of the first barrier involving this glacial land can be left to him to ensure everyone passes through. If he was able to say these words, it was because he had 100% confidence. Indeed, about 500 years ago, he had obtained a treasure which utilized water escape technique, and it had an effect similar to Wang Qingyu's Earth traveling boat. Thus, by virtue of his cultivation and understanding of the water domain, without any unexpected obstacles, he had led this youth through the pass with ease all the way. As for the road of no returns, between the first barrier and the second barrier, although he didn't waste any energy. When he had first walked this stone bridge in the past, he had nearly died, but after practicing his Six Desires evil technique to its limit, he was not worried. And all kinds of fluctuations in mood, and I am guessing there should be emotions here in place of these 2 stars, he had researched to the extreme. As a result, this road of no returns was like child's play to him, and could pass through easily. If not for the sake of ensuring this youth's safety, he wouldn't have needed to spend any time. Although for the sake of protecting this person, the speed of travel had been somewhat slowed down, but the end result remained the same. What truly made him feel anticipation was this second barrier, which is called Mountain of Restrictions. As the name suggests, its entire mountain peak is full of restrictions, and moving upwards from the bottom. The restrictions get increasingly complex and more powerful. In the past, when their group of 4 had first come here, they followed closely behind some powerhouses, and had barely passed through but had suffered heavy casualties, most of which were resulting from those powerhouses in order to probe out the power of the restrictions had sent people ahead of them to die. If not for Six Desires Devil Lord following his master, afraid that he would also have found it difficult to escape death. It was so because his master had been able to eradicate the bulk of the restrictions. He had spent his life studying restrictions and formations method. All along the way, he had done away with them through studying them, only to stop about 1,000 feet from the peak, where they were incapable of going forward. So they reversed their direction. At that place there were restrictions above and restriction below, with both sides restricting down. A few powerhouses upon a signal attacked a cultivator of middle spirit forming stage, and by using the spirit veins in his body, were able to forcibly open a 1,000 feet long passage. This passage could only be used for 3 breaths of time. All the survivors scrambled to rush ahead first, and eventually only a few people succeeded to reach the top of the mountain and enter the 3rd barrier, while the others all died. Six Desires Devil Lord, recalling that incident, couldn't he help but feel scared. Now that his cultivation reached middle spirit forming stage, he had dared to come here to explore. Having passed the 1st barrier and the road of no return smoothly, Six Desires Devil Lord was feeling confident, and he was considering himself lucky that the key person for passing the 3rd barrier was in his hands. By way of Six Desires Devil Lord's years of research, he had decided that this person could definitely help him pass through the 3rd barrier. But the only price needed would be this person's life. However, regarding this Six Desires Devil Lord didn't he give much thought unexpectedly. With him being 1,000 feet from the mountaintop, he was thinking of how to pass through this 1,000 feet distance. Although he had made preparations in these 1,000 years, but whether it would go well or not, in his heart, he only had 50% confidence. These 1,000 years he had spent a lot of his mind concentrating on studying restrictions with single-hearted devotion. With his extraordinary memory, the restrictions in the 2nd barrier, even after 1,000 years, he had the confidence that all along the way there is no band that can prevent his footsteps. All of them were easily cracked by him, but after having finished cracking them, he would immediately restore them back to normal state, along with adding a number of restrictions atop it, and now that it's mentioned unexpectedly, it is quite similar to Wang Lin. However, the restrictions in the mountain of restrictions increased in complexity the higher one went. Even Six Desires Devil Lord's speed also couldn't help but slow down. Often he had needed to study for a long time before he could tread further. For example, this fog in front of him wasn't there initially as per his memory, and thus it caused him to feel alarmed in his heart. Meanwhile, Wang Lin, after walking 10 feet, weeds began to gradually dwindle, exposing the outline of Black Mountain Rock. Wang Lin carefully looked for a long time, and one more time holding the jade script, recorded them. This mountain rock's restriction and the weeds were totally different. The weeds, in accordance to grass leaves direction along with some marvelous rules, had enabled to form a restriction. But this mountain rock was different. Excluding some rock patterns on its surface, there were absolutely no abnormalities. If not for it exuding some spirit power fluctuations, simply could not right away determine the restrictions. Wang Lin looked around in a circle, and found that all restrictions here were similar. If it was earlier, then Wang Lin could have passed through a gap, but currently Wang Lin, compared to passing through this place, was more interested in thoroughly researching this restriction. He was fully aware through script list, but if wanted to set foot on top of the mountain, then it must be under the restriction, with a great amount of effort. With this idea, Wang Lin began carefully studying. The mountains are timeless. A long period of time seems short, as in a blink of an eye, 7 years passed by. On this day, Wang Lin was standing at halfway point up the mountain, drinking Ling liquid. In these 7 years' time, half of his hair had turned white. Neglecting sleep and food, desperately researching the restrictions, his mind at all times was calculating and thinking. His hair, already 4 years ago, had started turning white. However, his divine consciousness continued to become stronger as he continued to research. Even his cultivation had, without his knowledge, reached middle Jidan stage, and he was one step closer to Yuan Ying stage. His vision and his entire temperament had completely changed from before. If Wang Lin from 7 years ago was a piece of 10,000 years black ice, giving a cold and gloomy feeling which didn't allow any stranger to come near, now currently, apart from these, he also gave off a kind of unfathomable feeling. This feeling that was originating from his eyes made his eyes seem all-encompassing. Occasionally the sun, moon, and stars would flash through. If Duan Muji were to see Wang Lin at this time again, he would certainly not be able to believe his eyes. These are clearly the eyes of divine consciousness, that one is able to obtain after achieving a certain level of accomplishment in restrictions technique. These eyes of Wang Lin had been born out of his practice during these 7 years. He had already experienced countless restrictions. Each restriction would require consumption of massive amount of time and mental energy, careful research and perfection, which includes several times when he had been almost buried inside. Especially there were some restrictions which were clearly different. Fortunately, Wang Lin was always cautious, and immediately recognized these restrictions were distinctly different from the mountainous native ones. Researching them, Wang Lin was already clear that person was also an expert in restrictions. Looking at the restrictions, and his above-mentioned scholastic attainments, it is clearly not a small amount. However, Wang Lin didn't have even the slightest fear. As regards the second barrier mountain of restrictions, his interest in spending time in this place had already become quite dull. And it seemed to him that this place was something to enable one to progressively learn restrictions technique. This kind of places, it could even be said to be a very rare and hard to come by opportunity, with restrictions ranging from simple to complicated, from easy to disastrous. This place is really hard to come by. Brothers, have you not yet hit the like button for the video? Wish that the like button for the video would be hit. Wang Lin felt excitement in his heart. He looked at the remaining 10 mosquito beasts and at his mosquito king. He rushed out with the blood dragon around him and landed on the mosquito king's head. Teacher, we meet on the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin turned and clasped his hands as Xuan Luo. The mosquito king let out a fierce howl and charged into the depths with Wang Lin. Behind him, the 9 mosquito beasts followed like guards. Xuan Luo looked at the disappearing Wang Lin through the gap in the ice. After a long time, he closed his eyes and waved his hand. The gap in the ice shrank and was sealed. That mosquito-like beast could it be one of the 9 beasts that was born in the law of the immortal astral continent along with the ancient ancestor if it is true. Then Wang Lin's future is not something I can predict. It is likely he will become the 10th son of the immortal astral continent by himself. If he really becomes the Grand Empyrean, my ancient Dao clan will exist forever. Xuan Luo's face turned a little ruddy. He was shocked by the mosquito absorbing the law of the immortal astral continent. At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. After a long time, Xuan Luo walked into the distance along the dragon path. Around his body, a blood-colored sun appeared. This blood-colored sun shrouded the surroundings and resisted the law of the immortal astral continent. The light of the blood-colored sun faintly pierced out from the surrounding ice and lit up the void. Using this method, he battled against the law of the immortal astral continent by himself. The endless void between the cave world and the immortal astral continent contained the law of the immortal astral continent. It wasn't only connected to Wang Lin's cave world but to all the cave worlds on the immortal astral continent. Since ancient times, countless genius of the cave worlds had found out the truth after being unwilling to accept fate. They had used different methods to eventually enter this void outside the cave worlds. However, not one of them had ever successfully entered the immortal astral continent. They had all died here. It has been like this since forever. Similarly, many powerful people on the immortal astral continent had tried to enter this void. They wanted to try to comprehend the law here, or even use this place to enter the cave world of another sect. Perhaps some people had succeeded, but they were very few, and it was easy to get lost here. As a result, very few people had ever entered this place. Wang Lin would occasionally see corpses float by him, and they would remain floating here for an eternity. The void is like the sea. Perhaps this place can be seen as a sea filled with the law of the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin, sitting on the back of the mosquito king, looked at the endless void before him. There was no sound, no light, and no trace of life. This place was dead silent. People would go mad from the extreme silence. The longer they stayed here, the more restless their mind would become. Even those with a firm mind would find it difficult to calm down. More importantly, it was easy to get lost here. Once you were lost, you would never find the way out. Even if you saw portals, they are just doors to the cave worlds of other sects. You wouldn't be able to leave. Wang Lin's purpose was to take Li Muan's soul with him, so he could not let himself get lost. The more he moved forward, the stronger the law of the immortal astral continent became. It was a pressure that was everywhere and prevented people from moving forward. Some people used the power of the pressure to determine the direction, but the law of the immortal astral continent was everywhere. Aside from the fact that the pressure became stronger the further one went, there was another unique characteristic: time. The more time you spent here, the stronger the pressure became. Wang Lin was already accustomed to loneliness, not to mention he had the mosquito beast with him. He told himself he was not lonely. He also had the blood dragon around him. Aside from reducing the power of the law of the immortal astral continent, it also had the purpose of guiding him. Time slowly passed like this. For the first month, Wang Lin was very calm as he moved through the void. He looked at the corpses that occasionally appeared. He could feel the unwillingness from these corpses. Perhaps they people were like him, geniuses of a cave world, but now they had been dead for an unknown amount of years. After 1 year, even Wang Lin felt uneasy with this silence. He hadn't spoken a word during this year, and his eyes seemed to integrate with the darkness. Whether his eyes were open or closed, it was just endless darkness. During this year there was not a single sound. In this mysterious place, not even the sound produced when flying too fast existed. He didn't know how far he had gone. He only knew that his direction should be correct. The blood dragon around him had dimmed, but it still existed and pointed the way. Wang Lin didn't know where Xuanluo was, but he could feel that Xuanluo was somewhere in the void, escorting his friends to reincarnate. He was also helping him resist the law of the immortal astral continent so he wouldn't feel its effects too strongly. This feeling made Wang Lin feel warmth in his heart. He would sometimes look at the black void behind him. He felt like he could see the door to his hometown watching him as he went further away. For an instant, he seemed to be able to see Mu Bingmei holding the umbrella under the rain. That face under the umbrella revealed a complicated emotion she couldn't describe. Wang Lin no longer felt hatred toward Mu Bingmei. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, another half year. Wang Lin had been in the void for a year. In truth, he should have forgotten about everything, but he couldn't allow himself to forget. If he forgot the passage of time, it would be the same as losing everything. On this day, after 1.5 years, Wang Lin muttered, "There are still 8.5 years." His voice was hoarse, as if he was an old man, and the blood dragon around him had become dim. Although he didn't feel much of the law of the immortal astral continent, the speed of the 9 mosquito beasts behind him slowed down. On a day in the 2nd year, the blood dragon was almost invisible, only its guidance faintly remained. However, its ability to cancel the law of the immortal astral continent was gone. At this point, Wang Lin felt the pressure from the law of the immortal astral continent clearly for the first time. It felt like a mountain had smashed into his body. The power of his essences also became weak under the law of the immortal astral continent, and he had no way of recovering it. He could only use what he had. This was one of the reasons why the void here was terrifying. No matter how strong you were, if you got lost or stuck here, there would be a day when you died. The 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, 4 years of time silently passed in this void. It was very fast but also very slow. The years were fast, but the heart was slow. The 4 years felt like 400 years to Wang Lin. As the pressure increased, Wang Lin wanted to cultivate, but couldn't. Inside the void, there seemed to be a mysterious force that prevented all life from cultivating. They could only count as time passed by. This seemed to be the only source of entertainment here. Wang Lin didn't encounter another living being during these 4 years. He had only encountered corpses that belonged to cultivators or fierce beasts. Although the 9 mosquito beasts behind him could fuse with the law of the immortal astral continent, it was becoming unbearable even for them. It felt like the entire star system was collapsing on your body. Even Wang Lin's face had gone pale, and his body was almost at the limit. The 9 mosquito beasts were put into Wang Lin's storage space to save them the suffering of following. However, the Mosquito King under Wang Lin showed no signs of discomfort. It still moved at a very fast pace while carrying Wang Lin. When the 5th year arrived, Wang Lin felt like his body was immersed in silt. Even raising his hand caused him severe pain, as if countless threads had entangled his body, but he continued to move forward. He had taken the heaven avoidance coffin out from his storage space and was carrying it on his back. The storage space was no longer safe. Only by placing it on his back and protecting it with his own body did he feel at ease. He understood that as long as he didn't die, this force wouldn't hurt Li Muan behind him. This was because Wang Lin had gathered his power outside of his body to protect Li Muan. Fortunately, he had the mosquito beast below him. It had maintained a very fast speed as it moved forward. If Wang Lin had to rely on his own strength to both combat the pressure and move forward, it would become even more difficult. Wang Lin was struggling to move to the immortal astral continent. On the immortal astral continent, at the center of the ancient Dao clan, there was the floating city. At the center of the city was the ancient Dao palace, and the middle-aged man in the royal robe was standing on the highest pavilion as he looked at the gloomy sky that seemed like it was going to rain. He felt a pearl that gave off a ghostly light. While the inside of the pearl was a blur, he could see the shadow of a woman's soul sleeping inside. Grand Empyrean has been gone for a long time, HMAT, to actually spend so much effort for a mere cave world cultivator. He has gone senile from old age. Aside from Xuanluo, the only guardian the ancient Dao needs is this emperor, and in the future it will still be this emperor. I want to see what kind of person that old guy brings back. No matter what his status is, when he sees this emperor, he will have to kneel to greet me. The ancient Dao emperor clenched the pearl in his hand. Although the pearl was tough, because he was clenching too hard, the soul inside trembled as if it was afraid. The man in the royal robe raised his hand and looked at the trembling soul as he muttered to himself, "Little soul, why did the imperial teacher say that you will be the key for me to reign over the immortal astral continent? Forget it. Since you re so important, this emperor will take you as my empress. Yi Dao, try to fuse this soul with all the women you've brought." As you command. Behind the man in the royal robe, a distortion appeared, and a man shrouded in black fog materialized. He knelt on the ground and accepted the command. "Thank you all for the support, especially for the large golden gifts from Leo. Leo is so touched, he could cry. By the end of this month, Leo's video is facing a challenge in the popular rankings." Hoping to get more likes for the video. Wang Lin had been in the void filled with the law of the immortal astral continent for 6 years now. On the immortal astral continent, everything was peaceful, and there was no war. There wasn't much friction between the ancient and celestial races. During this year, many genius had shined brightly across the celestial continents. One of them was named Yun Yifeng. This year, the celestial emperor that ruled over the continents came out after tens of thousands of years of closed-door cultivation. Half of the continents were shrouded in endless celestial energy. This year, some cultivators from the cave world had quietly reincarnated, but it was unknown where they had gone. Not much happened across the 36 states of the ancient countries and the 3 clans this year. They had calmly passed through this year. Every continent on the immortal astral continent was equal to dozens of cave worlds in size. It was very large, and many ordinary cultivators had never left their continent. In particular, there was the heavenly river between the ancient and celestial races. This river contained a mysterious force, and many powerful beasts lived within. Only old monsters that were as old as the world itself dared to enter it, and even then they wouldn't go too deep. This was the first barrier if either side wanted to invade the other. This year passed by quietly like this. Among the celestial clan's 72 continents, one of the furthest 9 continents from the heavenly river was the heavenly bull continent. If this continent were to shrink countless times, one would vaguely see the shape of a bull. Thus, it was named the Heavenly Bull. This continent was remote and far away from the imperial capital on the celestial Ming continent. A long time ago, it was considered an outer continent. It was on the eastern part of the immortal astral continent, and with the other 8 continents, they formed the eastern continent. The eastern continent had 9 sects and 13 factions, with the Purple Sun sect leading them. The Dong Lin sect was the most mysterious. In addition, the Gui Yi sect, the Great Soul sect, and such formed the 21 most famous sects on the eastern continent. Aside from these 9 sects and 13 factions, there were some smaller sects, but they could not compare to the behemoth that were those 21 sects. Not to mention the Purple Sun sect was rumored to contain one of the 9 suns. The Heavenly Bull continent was under the influence of the Great Soul sect and the Gui Yi sect. The 7 Dao sect had been created in a remote corner of the Heavenly Bull sect. There was a black mountain range covered in forest. There was a layer of fog surrounding the mountain, and there were rarely any beasts there. Within this mountain range, there was a lonely peak. It was the tallest peak, and it had the densest mist around it. This was the location of the 7 Dao sect. When the cave world closed, Su Dao sealed the 7 Dao sect. Many years had passed, and the 7 Tao sect had fallen. There was not a single living thing here, and it was filled with death. This was also where one appeared after leaving the cave world. Yun Yafeng, Fan Shanlu, or anyone who had come out of the cave world with their immortal astral continent bloodlines all appeared here. They looked at their familiar yet strange hometown before leaving. On a certain day of the 6th year, if one's gaze penetrated the dense layer of mist, they would see the various pavilions of the 7 Tao sect. Among them, there was a very large pavilion, and that was the main hall of the 7 Tao sect. It was also the place the 7-colored celestial sovereign once used for his closed-door cultivation. On this day, outside the pavilion in the mist-covered mountain, a figure slowly appeared. It was a young man in black, but although he looked young, his eyes revealed the passage of countless years. He was Xuan Luo. Xuan Luo looked at the 7 Tao sect pavilion that hid inside the mist and slowly sat down. Wang Lin, everyone has reincarnated, but I have no control over when they will reincarnate. Perhaps it will be a few years or perhaps 1,000 years before they appear. But they are safe. Xuan Luo let out a sigh as he looked at the pavilion. He seemed to be able to see the void inside the pavilion and Wang Lin, who was struggling to come out of the void. There are less than 4 years left. Disciple, teacher has done all he can. Now it will depend on you. Xuan Luo slowly closed his eyes, and between his eyebrows, there was a flash of red light. This red light was to ensure Wang Lin didn't get lost. In the void between the cave worlds and the immortal astral continent, Wang Lin's face was deathly pale. He cycled his ancient Tao power through his body to resist the crazy pressure coming from all sides. This pressure was already indescribably powerful, and if not for the mosquito beast, who continued to move, Wang Lin would have stopped. Even the Mosquito King was moving a lot slower and struggling under the pressure now. It would sometimes let out a silent howl. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot. The essences in his body had all been exhausted and he had no way of recovering. The only way to resist the law of the immortal astral continent was with his ancient Tao body. It had been more than a year since he had seen a corpse. It seemed it was very rare for anyone to make it this far. The blood dragon had long dissipated. Even the red mark it formed between his eyebrows was so bleak, it was almost invisible. These last 7 years had been extremely difficult for Wang Lin, especially because he needed to protect his wife behind him, protect Li Muan. Every day he had to suffer even more pain. But he didn't regret it. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in the blink of an eye, another year passed. In the 8th year, the pressure suddenly increased. The entire void seemed to turn solid and pressed on his body. Blood continued to flow out from the corner of Wang Lin's mouth and his vision became blurry. He vaguely understood that he was about to give out. With a miserable smile, Wang Lin struggled to raise his right hand and press it on the head of the Mosquito King that was struggling to move forward. The Mosquito King had accompanied him for 8 years, and Wang Lin could see that perhaps this was really the home of the Mosquito King's ancestor. It was obvious that the Mosquito King was more adapted to this place than Wang Lin. However, it was not born here. Perhaps it would fully adapt after countless years, but right now it was unable to enter the depths of the void. The Mosquito King was too worn out to enter by force. It needed to fuse with more of the law of the immortal astral continent, to go through countless evolutionary transformations to reach the state of its ancestors. Don't go forward with me since this is your home. You should stay here. You have accompanied me for more than 2,000 years. Today you can go. The Mosquito King trembled and let out a roar. This roar spread out across the void and it was filled with its defiance. This was the first time it didn't listen to Wang Lin. It didn't want to leave. It wanted to use all its power to take Wang Lin a bit further. Even if it meant death, it wanted to send Wang Lin further along. Wang Lin smiled. Although he was suffering great pain, he was very happy. He shook his head and slowly stood up. This simple action was very difficult for him. The moment he got up, his eyes revealed light that had disappeared for a long time. Popping sounds echoed in his body, and his ancient Tao power fully erupted. This gave him the power to move by himself temporarily. His right hand formed a seal, and he didn't allow the Mosquito King to refuse. His hand landed on the beast's head. The moment the Mosquito Beast's movement was restricted, Wang Lin jumped off and flew away. Go! This is your hometown, Dante, follow me. Wang Lin's voice was firm and he waved his sleeve. The 9 remaining mosquito beasts flew toward the Mosquito King. This caused the distance between Wang Lin and the Mosquito King to increase greatly. Behind Wang Lin, a sharp cry echoed from the Mosquito King. This was a cry of despair from a child that was separated from their relatives. Wang Lin's heart felt a sting of pain from this cry, but he didn't stop. He used all his effort to fly forward. He knew that this time, his chance of survival was less than 10%. Since this was the case, why drag the Mosquito King down with him? Behind him, the Mosquito King broke out of its shackles and charged forward with bloodshot eyes. It didn't want to leave Wang Lin. Even if it was going to die here, it wanted to die next to its master. The palm Wang Lin had placed on the Mosquito King contained 10 seals that continued to stop the Mosquito King from moving forward. The stops caused the distance between the Mosquito King and Wang Lin to increase greatly. No matter how hard the Mosquito King pursued, it could no longer find its master. A sorrowful cry echoed in the void and spread far into the distance. Wang Lin was struggling to move forward in the void, but he could still hear the cry of the Mosquito King. He looked back for a moment before he gritted his teeth and continued to fly forward. After chasing for a long time, the Mosquito King still could not find Wang Lin. It trembled as the pressure increased, and it slowly stopped. However, it didn't give up. It suddenly turned around toward the other 9 mosquito beasts. It was going to fuse with more of the aura here and quickly evolve back to its ancestral form. Only then could it move faster and find its master. It was now the 9th year. Wang Lin had been separated from the mosquito beast for a year. Wang Lin's body had reached its limit. He took heavy steps as he spent all his effort protecting his wife behind him. His eyes were dull, but there was a powerful will within. This will was the defying will he possessed since a long time ago. More than 2,000 years ago, when he was still a mortal child, he had climbed up the steps of the Hengyu sect covered in blood, but he had never given up. After more than 2,000 years, he was still the same stubborn Wang Lin. As time goes on, a heavy dizziness is setting in. My mind can't cope. Tomorrow I will continue to burst forth with all my might. In 12 hours, that will be doubling the likes for the video, hoping that everyone is ready with 2 likes for Leo. Thank you. Immortal Astral Continent, Eastern Continent, the 7 Dao Sect Mountain on the Heavenly Bull Continent. Xuan Luo was sitting inside the pavilion in the mist-covered mountain, and he had waited for several years. Half a year has passed since the 10-year agreement he had with Wang Lin. But Xuan Luo hadn't left, even though the mark he had left on Wang Lin had completely disappeared. The disappearance of the red light meant that Wang Lin had lost his guide, or perhaps it meant Wang Lin's death. Did he fail? Xuan Luo's eyes revealed sorrow, and he closed his eyes with a sigh. He was going to wait a bit longer. Perhaps a miracle would occur, even though the chance of this miracle was slim. In the void between the cave world and the immortal astral continent, Wang Lin was carrying the coffin, moving forward with his hair scattered. He moved forward step by step. He had lost his thoughts and had no strength left. The only thing that was pushing him forward was his will. With this will, he had used his body to protect his wife and would never give up. The red light between his eyebrows had disappeared half a year ago. He could no longer feel the path ahead. The only thing he could do was not retreat and keep going forward in order to find the way out. 10 years of time in this dark void was enough to make one mad from the silence. Wang Lin gritted his teeth and continued moving forward. If he didn't have the will, his mind would have collapsed a long time ago. In truth, he would not have lasted this long if it wasn't for the fact that he had a fortunate encounter after the red light disappeared half a year ago. After all, not much of his ancient Dao cultivation remained. Just at this moment, a ray of light appeared in the void. This light was very weak, and it seemed to come from a corpse. As he closed in, the corpse became even more clear. It was an old man in a purple robe. His eyes were closed and there was no sign of light in them. However, the light coming from his body was very eye-catching. This old man came from an unknown place, but with the white light shining, one could see a mysterious force gathering in his body. The moment the corpse with the white light appeared, Wang Lin's dim eyes shined brightly. He looked up and moved very fast toward the body. He struggled to reach it, and the moment he closed in, he placed his hand on the body. He extracted the white light. The white light around the body gathered in Wang Lin's hand and rapidly disappeared. The mysterious force in the body also entered Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin felt that this power was cold, but it was this cold feeling that made his mind clear. After absorbing this force, his essences showed signs of recovering, and even his ancient Tao power recovered a bit. Wang Lin released his right hand and allowed the old man's body that had lost the light to continue drifting. Wang Lin's expression became a bit better. Wang Lin didn't know what this force was. Half a year ago he had encountered a corpse like this too. It was only after absorbing this force that he had the power to continue. This force was very mysterious. It could help his essences and ancient Tao power recover. This kind of thing should not exist, but it had appeared in the void before Wang Lin. During 10 years of time, Wang Lin had only encountered 2 bodies like this. Wang Lin's mind trembled, and his eyes shined. He activated his cultivation to resist the pressure from the law of the immortal astral continent. He then touched the coffin behind him, and felt Li Muan's existence. Wang Lin silently moved forward. His speed wasn't fast, but he didn't stop at all. He moved forward without changing directions. 10 years have already passed. I wonder where the end is. I shouldn't have strayed in the wrong direction. Wang Lin clenched his teeth and quickly disappeared into the void. This force is very strange. If I can encounter more, I won't die of exhaustion. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out, searching for the light. However, encountering the bodies with the white light was completely accidental. It would be very difficult to find more without changing directions. After 1 year, he still didn't encounter a third body like this. His cultivation had reached its limit, and he was like a dried-up oil lamp. Wang Lin had become very thin, so much so that even if someone who knew him were to encounter him, they would find him difficult to recognize. The light in his eyes dimmed until none remained. He was like a dead person. He didn't know how much further he had to go. It was this unknown that would turn into a terrifying emotion that would make one's mind collapse. Even with Wang Lin's will, his mind was affected. However, whenever he touched the coffin behind him, a determination would erupt from his heart, pushing him to never give up. However, the cruelty of reality erased the last of Wang Lin's consciousness after 3 months, which was when he passed out. There was no aura left in his body, but even unconscious, he still protected the coffin behind him. Even though the coffin was covered in cracks, it would have already disintegrated without his protection. A person and a coffin slowly floated in the void. The moment Wang Lin became unconsciousness, the pressure from the law of the immortal astral continent disappeared. Wang Lin didn't know of this strange change. He was like a dead person, and not even the 3 life spell had any use. He was like a dead person, and he floated in another direction while carrying the coffin. He was like all the corpses he had seen floating forever in this void. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, an unknown amount of time passed. Wang Lin's eyes were still closed, as if he was dead. On the immortal astral continent, in the 7 Tao sect, Xuan Luo let out a sigh and stood up. Adding the time before, he had already waited 15 years. It wasn't that he didn't want to keep waiting, but a powerful surge of celestial energy that wouldn't allow him to stay came from the distance. The celestial energy hadn't even gotten close, but a thunderous rumble echoed across the sky. A golden sun appeared in the horizon, and a figure stood inside. At the same time, another sun appeared in another direction, and a cold gaze came from that sun. Xuan Luo understood that he had to leave. "Disciple, you take care. If you were not dead, you should come find me." Xuan Luo let out a sigh and waved his sleeve. A monstrous blood sun appeared, and he flew into the sky. Xuan Luo left. From now on, there wouldn't be anyone waiting for Wang Lin's arrival. Wang Lin was still floating in the void, and his direction had changed. It was unknown where he was drifting toward, and he had become one of the corpses in the void. Several more years passed. Some people had reincarnated on the immortal astral continent. Some people were still on the path, and might need hundreds or 1,000 years to reincarnate. Not even Xuan Luo understood why the gap was so big. A child was born in a mortal town on the eastern continent this year. This child was very unusual. At the age of 6 or 7, he liked to call himself king whenever he played with his companions. If another child didn't wish to follow, he would punch and kick them. He was extremely ferocious, and the neighboring playmates became afraid of him. They slowly began to play his game of king. In the southern continent of the immortal astral continent, on a certain year, a child was also born. This child was also very remarkable. Although his family was broken in his early years, by the time he was 10 years old, He was already a famous liar in his city. However, if a liar become famous, then it wouldn't be good for them. As a result, this child left home early and took his talent in lying elsewhere. Time slowly passed for a long time. Xuan Luo had long returned to the ancient Dao clan with a bleak expression and had gone into closed-door cultivation. When the ancient Dao emperor saw Xuan Luo come back alone, he sneered in his heart. He slowly forgot about why Xuan Luo had gone to look for someone. It seemed a lot of people no longer thought about a person named Wang Lin. The immortal astral continent was like this, and the cave world was the same. However, there were a few people that could not forget this name whenever they remembered the past. Mu Bingmei was like this. The immortal astral continent Tangshan was the same, and the new genius of the generation Yun Yifeng would also think of Wang Lin. The Mosquito King also didn't forget about Wang Lin. Back then the beast was stopped by Wang Lin, and then it seemed to have gone mad as it absorbed the law of the immortal astral continent with its companions. It had metamorphosed 4 times during the past decade. Every time it went through a metamorphosis, the Mosquito King would become several times stronger. The pressure here would weaken until it felt like it no longer existed. In the end, after the 5th metamorphosis, the Mosquito King gave off a pressure that shook the entire void. Its body was no longer like a planet, but had changed completely until it was like smoke. This smoke was a blur, as if the mosquito had just popped out of an ink painting. However, its ferocity had reached a peak. Afterward, the Mosquito King no longer absorbed the law of the immortal astral continent. Its body spread out as fog and devoured its 9 companions before it set off in the endless void. It was going to find Wang Lin, find its master. The second watch has come. So thankful for the praise from the new clan leader. Last night Leo started from the starting point, immediately saw a new follower. I'm ecstatic. Thank you, everyone. It had desperately gone through metamorphosis and taken great risk to rapidly go through its evolutions. It had even devoured its companions with the sole purpose of finding Wang Lin, finding its master. Its cries of sorrow echoed in the void. It no longer had a body and was only a cloud of fog. It moved very fast through the endless void. As it searched, it became impatient. It paused for a moment, and its body collapsed completely. The fog turned into 100,000 portions, into 100,000 mosquito beasts, and searched in 100,000 directions. They all let out cries, calling for their master. Deep inside the void there was a corpse and coffin floating there. The right hand of the corpse was gripping the coffin tightly. Even if the arm was broken, the corpse wouldn't let go. The corpse had been floating in the void for decades. A faint white light slowly appeared on this corpse. This white light was just like the white light Wang Lin had absorbed from the 2 bodies. It gathered in the chest of the corpse, and was a mysterious force from the void. On this day, as the body and coffin floated, a palm-sized mosquito made of smoke flew out. The mosquito continued to roar, and it flashed past the body and coffin. However, the mosquito soon trembled, and turned to stare at the body and coffin in the distance. A roar of excitement echoed. The mosquito seemed to have gone crazy and rushed toward the body. When it got close, it cried loudly toward the thin face of the corpse. It couldn't speak like a person, but its cries exceeded all words. It was a roar of a sadness, it was the call of despair. As it roared, strands of smoke came from the void, revealing a mosquito inside each. More than 100,000 gathered to form Wang Lin's Mosquito King. The Mosquito King's eyes were blood red. As it cried, its large mouth gently touched Wang Lin's face as if it was trying to awaken the sleeping Wang Lin, but it failed every time. Countless attempts and countless failures. The Mosquito King's body trembled, and its cries became hoarse from despair. It had worked so hard and searched for so long until it finally found its master, but what it saw was a corpse. The simple-minded Mosquito King couldn't accept it. It grabbed Wang Lin and the coffin and flew off into the distance. The void would be extremely terrifying for others, but for the Mosquito King that had metamorphosed 5 times, there was no discomfort. It carried Wang Lin and the coffin through vast distances in an instant. After going through 5 metamorphoses, it had some vague memories about this void. It felt that there was a place here that could allow its master to awaken. However, this location was very well hidden, and even it had to look for a very long time to find it. It flew for an unknown amount of distance and time. The Mosquito King searched for a very long time, until it finally saw a round continent. Or rather than a continent, it was more of a large platform. The platform's shape was irregular and looked like it was part of something else. It was about 100,000 feet wide, not very large. It gave off bursts of white light that was exactly the same as the white light Wang Lin had absorbed from the two bodies. The platform was empty, but it was surrounded by an invisible barrier that prevented anything from entering. This barrier was formed completely by the law of the immortal astral continent. Forget Wang Lin, even Xuan Luo would find it difficult to break the barrier to enter. Only the celestial ancestor, ancient ancestor, and the 9 strange beasts that were born from the law of the immortal astral continent could enter the barrier. In the Mosquito King's fuzzy memory, it saw that its ancestors were born on a round platform like this, so once its master entered such a platform, then its master would certainly wake up. The Mosquito King brought Wang Lin and the coffin toward the round platform. The Mosquito King entered, but Wang Lin and the coffin were stopped outside. The Mosquito King was startled and immediately came out. It took Wang Lin and tried again, but it failed several times in a row. As a result, the Mosquito King became anxious and began to cry. It took a strand of Wang Lin's hair with its mouth and charged inside once more. Again it entered, but the strand of hair was blocked outside. The Mosquito King went crazy and charged out from the platform. It floated beside Wang Lin and roared at the platform. A moment later, madness appeared in its eyes, and its huge mouth narrowed. It pierced Wang Lin's body and carefully sucked out a drop of blood from Wang Lin's dried-up body. This blood was devoured by the Mosquito King and was protected by layers of smoke inside its body. It rushed toward the platform again, and this time, after it was halfway in, it was stuck. It let out a painful howl and seemed to be stuck there. It seemed like unless it spat out that drop of blood, it couldn't enter. The Mosquito King let out a heaven-shaking roar, and it struggled to enter. However, the barrier was very strong, and the Mosquito King could only enter halfway. No matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't move in further. After several attempts, the Mosquito King's eyes became red, and its mist-like body shrank, as if it had condensed all its essences around the drop of blood. It opened its mouth and spat out the drop of blood. The front half of its body was on the other side of the barrier, including its long mouth. It spat out the blood, and the blood entered the inner part of the barrier. However, the inside of the barrier wouldn't allow anything from the outside to enter. Wang Lin's blood began to evaporate, and just as it was about to disappear, the Mosquito King's body rushed in. The Mosquito King used its body to protect the blood, and it let out a painful howl. Its body immediately showed signs of dissipating, and it shrank a lot. However, under its protection, although a lot of the blood had evaporated, a sliver still landed on the round-shaped platform. For the first time ever, a drop of blood that was not formed by the law of the immortal astral continent had landed on this platform. Most importantly, this happened after the white light had appeared on Wang Lin's body after he had died or gone to sleep. It was precisely because all of this happened that he obtained the greatest fortune in his more than 2,000 years of cultivation. This fortune was enough to shake the heavens. This platform was located in the void of the immortal astral continent. Not many people could enter this void, and most that entered had died or become lost. The position of the platform was also not fixed. It was always moving. If not for the fact that the Mosquito King had a vague memory after going through several metamorphoses, it would have been very difficult to find, even if one looked for countless years. These two conditions were already very difficult to complete, and very few could complete them. In addition, this platform prevented anything not formed by the law of the immortal astral continent from entering. This was like a wide rift that made it even more difficult. Unless it was like the Mosquito King, who desperately tried at the risk of its own life, it would be almost impossible to accomplish. To make the mosquito beast that would never recognize an owner to do this was really a fortune. However, these weren't all the conditions. The final condition was that the person had to either die or go to sleep, and for the white light to appear. This white light was in fact part of the law of the immortal astral continent. It only appeared on the corpses of very few people after they died. No one knew the specific condition for the white light to appear. Only after all of this was achieved would what was about to happen to Wang Lin occur. When the blood fell on the round platform, it was immediately absorbed by the platform. The entire platform trembled and invisible light spread out, filling the void. White light came from all directions from the void and rushed toward the platform. The platform rumbled. The mosquito beast flew out in joy and guarded Wang Lin. The rumbling became even more intense, and the platform began to move. It became soft and the edges curled up. It was like a palm forming a fist and gradually becoming an empty shell. Inside the empty shell there was a mist of blood. The mist of blood absorbed the white light and was flashing constantly. Finally, a human shape slowly condensed inside, and one could faintly see that appearance of the human figure was Wang Lin. As the shadow formed and slowly became clear after sleeping for decades, Wang Lin slowly opened his eyes. He could clearly feel that a force had come from somewhere and appeared in his blood, nourishing his body. The ancient Tao power in his body suddenly recovered. At the same time, his 7 essences reached their peak in an instant. He could vaguely feel that another version of himself existed in this world. As he slowly opened his eyes, Wang Lin could hear the Mosquito King's cries of joy. He saw the excited Mosquito King and saw the giant shell-like stone. For a moment, he seemed to see his other self. What is this for a moment? Wang Lin's mind was filled with confusion. The new chapter is late, but it has over 500 more words than the previous ones. I hope not to be hit. Wishing for the like button for the video. Wang Lin looked at the fruit-like shell. He couldn't see through it at all, but he could feel another self inside there. It could be said that when he closed his eyes, he wasn't sure if he was inside or outside the stone shell. He could feel himself sitting inside the shell and also feel his original body outside. This strange feeling was something Wang Lin had felt before, but nowhere near as strongly as now. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with confusion. The Mosquito King continued to rub its mouth on Wang Lin, letting out cries of joy. The Mosquito King's body was a lot smaller than before. At this moment it looked like a cloud of fog that could disappear at any moment, but it gave off a powerful life force. Wang Lin's eyes narrowed at the Mosquito King's change. He raised his right hand and tried to touch the Mosquito King. His hand touched nothing. He couldn't feel anything solid. However, the Mosquito King revealed a comfortable feeling, as if it would be very satisfied and happy as long as it was near its master. The Mosquito King had followed Wang Lin for a long time, so their thoughts were aligned. As Wang Lin's hand reached out, his divine sense spread out and fused with the Mosquito King. Soon memories of what happened after Wang Lin forced the Mosquito King away appeared in Wang Lin's mind. This was not a soul search but a transmission. Wang Lin had done such a thing before, and it would bring no harm to the Mosquito King. They could do this because they had been together for more than 2,000 years. Wang Lin gradually saw the Mosquito King's crazed metamorphosis and the desperate evolution. It had even devoured its 9 companions, all to look for him. Wang Lin saw the Mosquito King split into 100,000 smaller mosquitoes and searched the void to find him, who was already dead or asleep. He felt the sadness and despair from the mosquito beast as it brought Wang Lin and Li Muan here. Wang Lin also saw everything that happened after. After a long time, Wang Lin felt a warmth surge in his heart. He looked at the joyous Mosquito King, who kept rubbing him with its mouth. He raised his hand and gently patted the Mosquito King a few times. "It's been hard on you." Master S' soft pat, gentle gaze, and understanding words made the Mosquito King even more happy. Light shined from its body and ripples echoed. This was the happiest moment in its life. Wang Lin had never found loyalty like the Mosquito King from another beast. Whether it was the time when Wang Lin became immortal, or when they had been separated, and with what happened in the void, it all pointed to the fact that the Mosquito King was willing to give up its life for Wang Lin. Wang Lin was a grateful person. He was also willing to do everything for the Mosquito King. This mosquito was no longer his pet, but his family. He gently patted the mosquito's body, and his gaze fell on the fruit-like stone shell. From the mosquito's memory, this place seems to be the same as where its ancestors were born. What is this stone shell? Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he walked toward the stone shell. He raised his right hand and touched the stone shell. However, the moment he touched it, a rejection force came from the stone shell, knocking his hand away. It wouldn't allow him to touch or reach into it. He tried from several different positions, but the rejection force was still there. In the end, Wang Lin gave up the idea of controlling his avatar to walk out. He had a vague feeling this would be a great fortune for him. The fortune was the avatar that had unknowingly grown inside the stone shell. Perhaps in the future, this avatar would break out from the shell and contain a terrifying power. This power was the law of the immortal astral continent, because this avatar was born in the law of the immortal astral continent just like the ancestor of the Mosquito King. It wasn't worth it to break it by force. Wang Lin also understood that the reason he was able to awaken and recover his cultivation was because of that avatar in the stone shell. With his connection to the avatar, it seemed like the growth of the avatar would make his original body stronger. This kind of thing was very strange, and couldn't be explained clearly. Wang Lin silently pondered for a long time. When he was in the cave world, he had encountered some ancient jade regarding feng shui. This matter seemed very similar to feng shui. In feng shui, a lot of attention is focused on the location of the burial. Then, having my avatar here would be equal to making this a burial spot in this way. As my avatar grows, my original body will become stronger. I thought these kinds of things were nonsense back then, but now it feels similar. Wang Lin pondered and slowly retreated. He looked at the stone shell and gave up on the idea of breaking it or for his avatar to walk out. Mortal emperors cared deeply about the dragon vein. If they were buried in the dragon vein, their future generations would become prosperous, now that I've buried my avatar here. I want to see what kind of fortune I'll obtain in the future. Wang Lin's eyes lit up, and he turned without hesitation to charge into the void. The Mosquito King was very happy as it let out a cry and immediately carried Wang Lin off into the void. As they moved forward, Wang Lin looked back at where his avatar was. His eyes shined brightly. Compared to the nonsense that was feng shui, Wang Lin had more expectations for the growth of this avatar. He could clearly feel the connection with the avatar that couldn't be cut off. One day, the avatar would finish growing, and once it came out of the shell, Wang Lin believed it would change the world. As the mosquito flew, Wang Lin carried the heaven avoidance coffin with Li Muan inside, as they charged toward the exit. At this moment, inside the void, he didn't know the huge change that had occurred across the immortal astral continent the moment the Mosquito King brought the blood to the platform, and the blood was absorbed by the platform. This huge change shocked the entire immortal astral continent. Countless powerful cultivators came out of closed-door cultivation. The leaders and elders of countless sects all came out. Their divine senses rushed into the sky. This upheaval even caught the attention of the 9 suns, creating a rare occasion of all 9 suns appearing. No one could forget this scene. It was still remembered countless years later. It became a mystery everyone speculated about. When the celestial ancestor was born, there were 3 signs. The golden sky and black earth was 1 sign. When the ancient ancestor was born, there were 9 songs. The silver eyes was one of them. Although ordinary cultivators didn't know this, anyone who had reached a certain cultivation level or belonged to a powerful sect knew some of it. On this day, a distortion appeared in the sky above the capital of the Celestials on the celestial Ming continent that ruled over all of the Celestials. A huge vortex formed and began to spread it in all directions. It was too fast, far faster than any cultivator. It immediately covered the surrounding continents and caused the sky to turn golden. As the golden light appeared, the earth strangely turned black due to the reflection of the intense light. This caused the appearance of the golden sky and black earth that signaled the arrival of the celestial ancestor. At the same time, a vague shadow appeared inside the vortex. This figure was blurry, but one could vaguely see that the figure was wearing a golden robe and a crown. It stood in the vortex and gave off a shocking amount of celestial energy. Anyone who saw this figure would immediately think of a name that made them tremble in excitement. Celestial Ancestor. The celestial ancestor had disappeared into the void countless years ago. It was the first time since then that the shadow of the celestial ancestor had appeared once more. This set off a huge wave among the celestial race. All the grand empyreans of the celestial race appeared and bowed at the sky. At the same time, in the states of the ancient country, a huge vortex also appeared. This vortex was black and spread across the states as if it was competing with the celestials. A terrifying and tyrannical aura poured out from this vortex. This caused everyone in the ancient countries to kneel on the ground in excitement. At the same time, Xuan Luo and the other remaining 2 of the 4 ancient Grand Empyreans all rushed out. They floated in the air and looked at the vortex in the sky with disbelief. There was no shadow like the celestial ancestor, but a pair of eyes. This was a pair of silver eyes, and it looked toward the celestial ancestor. The eyes released a monstrous silver light. The entire immortal astral continent seemed to enter a boiling point. All 9 suns appeared at the same time, and the pressure they released caused everyone to tremble. If this was it, it would only shock everyone but not cause so much speculation. After the shadow and pair of eyes appeared in the sky, a third giant vortex appeared between the celestial and ancient lands. The appearance of this vortex set off an unimaginable wave of shock and terror. This is impossible. How could a third vortex appear as the illusions of the celestial ancestor and the ancient ancestor descends? A third vortex has appeared below the celestial and ancient ancestors. What does this mean? Is this indicating that inside the third vortex, there is an existence similar to the celestial and ancient ancestors? The end of the year is here, brothers. Give a like for Leo. Even if it was nonsense, according to feng shui, someone buried in a dragon vein would have a noble fate law. Once the fate law was determined, their descendants would all benefit. Wang Lin didn't believe in feng shui. He was a powerful cultivator who could move mountains and seas, change the earth, and even create stars. For him, something like feng shui could be created and controlled. But at this moment, he could still use feng shui to interpret the scene that shocked everyone on the immortal astral continent. Getting buried in a cave meant that their descendants would have more riches and less disasters. Once they were buried in the master cave, many of their future generals would have riches. Once they were buried in the dragon vein, their descendants would have great fortune. Similarly, once they were buried in the master dragon vein, their descendants could rule a country. Wang Lin's avatar was located at the birthplace of the celestial and ancient ancestors. Although it wasn't the same platform, this platform was part of the original platform. As a result, it was the same as Wang Lin, having the same fate law as the celestial and ancient ancestors. This fate law was not cultivation, it was something far beyond what cultivation could achieve. This fate law wouldn't reveal itself too much, but as time passed and his avatar grew, Wang Lin's future would be unimaginable. Wang Lin wasn't clear about this matter. He only understood a few things and had a lot of speculations. However, he didn't believe all of this. He was more convinced by his own effort and persistence. What he anticipated more was the day when the avatar walked out and threw its strongest punch. On the immortal astral continent, the moment the third vortex appeared, everyone felt shock no matter what their cultivation level or status was. Even the 9 suns had serious expressions when they sensed the third vortex. The third vortex seemed to have just been born and was still unstable. There were countless distortions, but it existed outside the vortexes of the celestial and ancient ancestors without collapsing. And it was rapidly expanding. After a long time, the 3 vortexes slowly dissipated from the endless sky. It was like they had never appeared, disappearing without a trace. Everything returned back to normal, but the fear left in everyone's hearts took root and continued to grow. This matter was like an omen that pressed down upon everyone, making it difficult to breathe, and countless thoughts appeared. On the immortal astral continent, after the 3 vortexes disappeared, in a town somewhere, there was a year-old child. He had one hand on his waist with the gesture of a king, and was waving a wooden stick in his hand. A group of children were being led by 2 frowning cultivators to go to a nearby sect to be tested. If there was anyone who had good talent, they would be taken into the sect as a disciple. "I will one day become a king," a persistent voice echoed in the heart of this child. Also on this continent, somewhere far away, a young child was wearing a Tao robe he had gotten somewhere, looking like a heavenly child. He was inside the house of a large family. He had a smile on his face while several people respectfully bowed before him. This old man has cultivated for 3,000 years and has now reverted to a child. I need to go through 9 reincarnations to recover my cultivation. You all have invited me from the countryside, so I'll stay for a while and form a Tao link. The ancient aura from the child was something even mortals could feel. It felt like the person that was sitting before them was not a child, but an old man who had lived for thousands of years. In particular, the spirit in those eyes seemed to see through life and made it so you felt like you had to believe them. The feeling of decay made the entire room feel grim and gloomy. Looking at the trembling mortal that was hit by this decay, the child looked normal, but in his heart, he was smiling like a flower. This little Lord's deception is something I have mastered without a teacher. These words sounded real even to me, as if I really did reincarnate. If I really have reincarnated, then I must have been a heaven-shattering liar. I'll spend a while here to not waste the few months I spent with the bodies in the cemetery. There are also the expenses from traveling from the neighboring country. I must earn it all back 100-fold. In the void, Wang Lin's body was surrounded by fog. This fog was the Mosquito King, and it carried Wang Lin as it flew forward. As it charged forward, the law of the immortal astral continent seemed to decrease greatly. The amount he felt was something he could bear. Although he had lost his direction, the mosquito beast seemed to feel something, and it continued toward that direction with Wang Lin. Along the way, the mosquito beast was very excited. It sometimes looked back at Wang Lin and let out a happy cry. It really liked being around Wang Lin. It felt very comfortable, as if it was with its parents. However, even with the Mosquito King leading the way, as they went deeper into the void, the pressure from the law of the immortal astral continent became even more powerful. Although Wang Lin had the avatar inside the stone shell nourishing his original body, the pressure became somewhat difficult to bear after a while. The main problem was that he had to ensure that Li Muwan was not injured at all. If there was no Li Muwan, the current Wang Lin would have no problem with the law of the immortal astral continent. Due to the Mosquito King and his avatar he had already adapted, he had such an advantage and was still suffering. This just showed how terrifying this void was. No wonder no one without the proper bloodline has ever come out of this void carrying Wan Er, was equivalent to giving up the bloodline. Wang Lin silently pondered. He had already forgotten the passage of time. He didn't know how long he had been here, but he understood that it was already past 10 years. I fear teacher can wait anymore. If he has gone back to the ancient Dao clan, then once I reach the immortal astral continent, I'll have to depend on myself. Wang Lin's eyes shined and were filled with determination. This is no problem. Back then, I left planet Suzaku by myself to explore the brilliant void. Then I went from the brilliant void to Alheaven, then to the Cloud Sea. Later, I went to the ancient star system by myself. Now I'll just go to the immortal astral continent alone as well. It is no problem. On the other hand, I must quickly increase my cultivation level on the immortal astral continent. There is also the Dong Lin sect that I must go to once. If I can enter the Dong Lin pool. When Wang Lin thought of this, his heart pounded. It could be said that Wang Lin really wanted to enter the Dong Lin pool. He longed to make the illusion from Fifth Flower a reality. He longed to have Essence true body so he could battle against arcane turbulent cultivators. There are still some old friends on the immortal astral continent. I don't know who has managed to reincarnate. Hehe. I wonder if Situnan got to be a king. I don't know if Lu Jinbiao will continue his path of deception. There is also that devil, Shu Liguo. I wonder what kind of fate he will have on the immortal astral continent. There are also Qing Shui, Red Butterfly, and Li Chame. Wang Lin had his memories and the Mosquito King to accompany him in this orbit, so he was not lonely. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. 3 years of time slowly passed as Wang Lin recalled the past. The Mosquito King had slowed down a lot, but it had brought Wang Lin to the end of the void. They were very close to the exit. This exit perhaps was not at the place that Xuan Luo had waited, but a place the Mosquito King had followed based on its vague memories. This place may lead to the Heavenly Bull continent, or it may lead to another place. It could even be in the ancient country S states. In these 3 years, Wang Lin focused his full cultivation on Li Muwan. Under his protection, she was very safe. On this day, he saw a light in the void before him. This light wasn't bright, and it came from a slender rift in the void. He could see mountains beyond the rift. Bursts of aura unique to the immortal astral continent came from the rift. Wang Lin's tired body immediately trembled. The Mosquito King was also very tired. It struggled to bring Wang Lin to the rift, but in the end, its body scattered into mist and couldn't take form. Wang Lin's heart ached for the Mosquito King, and his right hand reached toward the Mosquito King. The Mosquito King turned into an ink tattoo that imprinted on Wang Lin's arm. He didn't dare to open his storage space. When he opened it last time, he could sense that it was unstable and about to close. He didn't know if the storage space was going to explode if he opened it, or if it would still exist on the immortal astral continent. Wang Lin would have to spend time to figure out these unknowns. Aside from some pills and treasures, there was the madman and the woman in silver inside. These two had the bloodline from the immortal astral continent, so even if they were in the void, there wouldn't be any problem unless they were like Wang Lin, who was trying to protect someone while entering the immortal astral continent. After taking away the mosquito beast, Wang Lin carried Li Muwan and adjusted himself. He opened his eyes and stared at the rift. At this moment, it was like back in the foreign battleground, when he tried to escape after turning into a soul devourer. He erupted his full cultivation and rushed out toward the rift. He was very fast and instantly closed in. He was spending all the energy he could on speed, the rest was being used to keep Li Muwan safe. He was using just his body to charge forward. He was getting closer and closer. 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 300 feet, 100 feet, until he was only 10 feet away. Wang Lin's body seemed to be burning and he felt intense pain, but his eyes shined brightly. Immortal astral continent. Wang Lin. Coming. The last 2 days of the month are upon us. Wishing for the like button for the video. Right now it's about doubling the likes for the video. Very grateful and will return the favor. The Heavenly Bull continent was part of the Eastern continent, the land that belonged to the Celestials. It was a remote region filled with mountains. If one looked from above, most of the Heavenly Bull continent was filled with mountains. Rumor had it that in the early years, the Heavenly Bull continent was a vicious heavenly beast that the celestial ancestor killed and then placed here. There were even more rumors saying that all 72 continents were in fact 72 seals to suppress 72 fierce extraterrestrial beasts. Even the 36 states of the ancient countries had similar legends. However, because it had been too long, no one knew if it was true or not. Perhaps only people like the 9 sons and the royal families of the 2 races knew. For other cultivators, this was irrelevant, and they couldn't sense the existence of the fierce beasts anyways. The rumor of the Heavenly Bull continent came from ancient times. The reason there were so many mountains was because each mountain was formed by a bone of that fierce beast. In the Heavenly Bull continent, there were 2 famous sects, the Guiyi sect and the Great Soul sect. These 2 sects were very large and were part of the 9 sects and 13 factions of the Eastern continent. These 2 sects had a large number of disciples, but because the Heavenly Bull continent was equal to dozens of cave worlds, it was rare for them to encounter each other, so there weren't much friction between them. The Great Soul sect was very strange. They cultivated large amounts of different methods, but the most important were soul and illusion. Fan Shanmeng was a disciple of the Great Soul sect, and her various illusion spells showed the power of the Great Soul sect. Rumor had it that there were 9 layers to the illusion spells of the Great Soul sect, and in the end they would turn illusion into reality. It was extremely terrifying. As for the Guiyi sect, they focused on the 5 elements. In addition, they had their unique armor forging method that made them famous. Below the Guiyi sect and the Great Soul sect were the scattered small sects. They were controlled by the Guiyi sect or the Great Soul sect. Every once in a while they would need to send out offerings to the 2 sects. The 7 Tao sect that was created by the 7-colored celestial sovereign was one of such sects. However, he had taken a Great Soul sect disciple as a Tao partner and was therefore protected by the Great Soul sect in the Heavenly Bull continent. His talent was also amazing, so he was valued by the Great Soul sect for a reason. However, during the recent decades, a core disciple of the Guiyi sect named Yun Yifeng had become famous. Rumor had it that he had gone into closed-door cultivation for a long time, and after coming out, he was extraordinary. He had challenged many core disciples of the Great Soul sect and had won against all of them. Even ordinary elders of the Great Soul sect were not his match. As a result, Yun Yifeng's reputation rose, and he gradually became rank 1 among the new generation of disciples of the Heavenly Bull continent. There were also people who put him among the previously named 4 heavenly geniuses of the Eastern continent and called them the 5 Peaks. However, this Yun Yifeng was very modest and would often shake his head when people compared him to the 4 heavenly geniuses of the Eastern continent. It wasn't that he felt like he was lesser than them, but he felt contempt toward them. 10 years ago, during a competition between the Great Soul sect and the Guiyi sect, Yun Yifeng injured 9 disciples and 3 elders of the Great Soul sect with 1 hit. When people compared him with the 4 heavenly geniuses of the Eastern continent, he said something that shocked the entire Heavenly Bull sect. My sword can injure a lot of people. I even dare to fight against those 4 heavenly genius. Although I might not win, I won retreat a half a step. However, I met a cultivator that only cultivated for a little more than 2,000 years in this world, and when I stood before him, I didn't dare to draw my sword. Forget me, even those 4 heavenly geniuses are not worthy of being called geniuses. In my opinion, in the new generation, no one is his match. This line set off thousands of waves and caused an uproar. Everyone who heard this was shocked, and they all thought of the same thing. Who was this person? Who can make Yun Yifang say such words, to make him not dare to draw his sword before that person? And that person had only cultivated for a little more than 2,000 years and could do this. If this was all true, then the 4 geniuses of the Eastern continent were really not worthy of being called geniuses before that person. While this line set off a huge stir, at the same time, a lot of people questioned it. However, no one in the Great Soul Sect questioned it, as if the people of the Great Soul Sect knew this person. This strange phenomenon seemed to set off a huge uproar. The Great Soul Sect's silence caused a lot of people to speculate. Who was this person? He could make Yun Yifeng not dare to draw his sword. He could make the 4 geniuses not worthy of being called geniuses. He could make the Great Soul Sect not dare to rebut this. It was as if the Great Soul Sect had silently agreed that such a person existed. Even the Gui Yi Sect didn't say anything after their disciple had said something like this. They seemed to know that such a person existed. Who was this person? He will appear. Once he appears, you will know. This was the last thing Yun Yifang said about that mysterious person. Although several years had passed, the rumor about this mysterious person didn't stop spreading throughout the Heavenly Bull continent. As it spread by word of mouth, the rumor became even more exaggerated. However, this was a question without an answer. As for the people who knew the answer, none of them spoke. After more time passed, this rumor was no longer as intense, and it slowly hid inside everyone's hearts. Perhaps one day they would find out who this person was. The Blue Dragon sect was a mid-level sect, and its land was comparable to less than half of the Brilliant Void. From the perspective of a cave world cultivator, it was not as large as the Thunder Celestial Temple or the Cultivation Alliance, but it was still a behemoth. However, on the Immortal Astral Continent, it was just average. The Immortal Astral Continent was rumored to have 30,000 celestial sects. No one knew if that was true or false, but every sect was indeed very different. The name Blue Dragon Sect would make you think they were related to a dragon, but the cultivation methods their disciples used had nothing to do with dragons. The Blue Dragon Sect disciples were all good at making puppets to help them in battle. Disciples often needed to refine their life puppets first, before they could go outside. As for the puppets, they had different rankings and powers as well. Besides using special wood or mechanics, beast or cultivator corpses could be refined into puppets as well. Puppets weren't that mysterious. Cultivators of other sects all knew a bit about them. However, the Blue Dragon Sect's puppet spell had its own specialty. It would convert one's body into a puppet in order to achieve immortality. Rumor had it that the first person who reached the Void Tribulent stage in the Blue Dragon Sect, Grand Elder Du Qing, was a person made of wood. Normally, he looked like a normal person, but once he used spells, one could see his wooden body. In the Heavenly Bull continent, the Blue Dragon Sect had a vicious name. The disciples and even elders would use various means to obtain what they wanted, which included killing others for treasures. However, Grand Elder Du Qing has a deep relation with the Great Soul Sect, so they would do as they wished, and few sects dared to provoke them. The Blue Dragon Sect also carefully chose the people and sects they targeted. If the target was not to be provoked, they would avoid them. Their main targets were people from the other continents. If a cultivator from another continent passed by, that was their best target. Throughout the year, the disciples were mostly outside, wandering, searching for information to send to the sect. If they encountered an enemy that was difficult to deal with, they would often call for more people to attack in a group. Kang Ren was a third-generation disciple of the Blue Dragon Sect. He was cunning and cruel, and was very famous among the third generation. He was also quite valued by the sect. He had a good eye and could often tell at a glance if a person could be provoked, thus avoiding getting the sect into trouble. He was a handsome man, which made it hard to imagine that he was a vicious person. Even some second-generation disciples didn't want to provoke him. On this day, Kang Ren was flying through the sky. He went to the border of the Heavenly Bull continent to see if he could find any foreigners passing by. As he flew, there was a sudden change in the distance. He saw a rift appear over there, and with a flash of ghostly light, a figure fell out. The figure seemed to be carrying a coffin as it fell into the distance. All of this happened in a flash. The moment the figure fell, the rift in the sky disappeared as if it had never appeared. This sudden change shocked Kang Ren, and he rubbed his eyes. He had never encountered such a thing before. He looked at where the rift was and felt like he was hallucinating. However, he soon became excited, and his eyes shined brightly. He charged toward where the figure carrying the coffin fell. There is something strange. There is a problem. There is a treasure. Kang Ren's heart pounded. The Blue Dragon sect was founded by Du Qing, and this was the first sentence of the sect's rules. Over the years, this line had been memorized by every disciple of the Blue Dragon sect. Something that was strange had to be a problem, and if there was a problem, there was likely treasure. Kang Ren flew at full speed, but still cautiously protected himself with treasures. As he flew, he heard a muffled rumble. In the distance, the figure carrying the coffin landed on the mountain. More than half the mountain collapsed from the collision, revealing a motionless, white-haired youth. What a powerful body! Kang Ren's eyes were filled with greed as he carefully closed in. The end of the month is here, wishing for the like button for the video. Brothers, do you still have likes for the video? You are listening to a completely free audiobook on the Leo Audio YouTube channel. If you enjoy the story, please like the video to motivate the channel. Support Leo with a cup of coffee through the description link or on the screen. If you want to hear any other stories, just comment and let Leo know. Thank you very much for watching the video. Kang Ren first circled the area a few times. After carefully observing for a while, he slowly closed in on the collapsed mountain where Wang Lin was. He stared at Wang Lin, who was lying there, and his eyes were filled with excitement and greed he couldn't hide. Such a powerful body. This is very rare for people not of the ancient country. Looking at his appearance, he lacks the stars between his eyebrows and doesn't have the aura that those brutes from the ancient country have. This person should not be an ancient country cultivator. For a cultivator to have such a powerful body, I wonder how he managed. Kang Ren licked his lips and his heart began beating even faster. He felt like his chance had arrived. This was a fortune given to him by the heavens. He didn't expect such a thing to fall before him while he was just flying through the sky. This person's aura is all gone and he is in a semi-dead state, just perfect for me to refine into a puppet. With this puppet, I can sweep through all second-generation disciples in the Blue Dragon sect. If I can catch the eye of the old ancestor and get accepted as a disciple, then I'll pierce the heavens. As Kang Ren thought about this, he became even more excited. Although he was excited, he didn't forget to be careful. He stopped a few hundred feet from Wang Lin and even prepared to escape to call his sect if things went badly. After all, if he couldn't have it himself, reporting it to the sect was still a great achievement. His right hand formed a seal and a rift appeared on his wrist, but it disappeared quickly. An ink-colored jade appeared and a violent aura quickly spread from it. Holding this jade, Kang Ren threw it without hesitation. The jade flew at Wang Lin and landed on his chest. With a bang, the jade exploded and shook the mountain, creating a powerful impact. Under this shock, Kang Ren retreated 1,000 feet, and the excitement in his eyes became even stronger. He didn't fight back. He must be dead and not just passed out. Kang Ren smiled quickly before charging forward and instantly arriving next to Wang Lin. Although the impact of the jade was powerful, it wasn't able to injure Wang Lin at all. In truth, a jade with only the power of a Nirvana cleanser cultivator would not injure Wang Lin, even if there were tens of hundreds of them. As for the heaven-avoiding coffin, it was still being protected by Wang Lin, so it wasn't damaged at all. Forget Kang Ren, even a cultivator who had gone through several arcane tribulations would find it difficult to damage the coffin. When Kang Ren closed in on Wang Lin, his eyes narrowed and he looked at the heaven-avoiding coffin behind Wang Lin. He saw the woman inside. Although the woman was extremely beautiful, that sleeping appearance caused evil thoughts to appear in his eyes. Haha, I didn't get a good look before, but it turns out there was female cultivator here? Good. I'll refine this female cultivator into a puppet too and have her serve me. What a joyous thing. Kang Ren licked his lips, and his hand formed a seal before he pointed at the sky. A rift appeared on his right wrist and a large net flew out. It trapped Wang Lin and the coffin on his back. Then Kang Ren waved his sleeve, and he was surrounded by black wind. He thought he had obtained a great fortune and flew into the distance. I've sure earned a lot today. Haha, heaven has eyes, and it really wants me to make it big. Kang Ren was very excited, and he didn't dare stay outside for long. The only thought in his mind was to head back to the sect to refine the puppet. The Blue Dragon sect was located on a huge mountain range surrounded by poison. The nearby mountains were hollowed out into countless stone rooms to act as caves. It was difficult to see the end of this endless mountain range with the naked eye. There were nearly 50,000 Blue Dragon sect disciples, but most were out or in closed-door cultivation. Aside from the annual meeting, it was rare to encounter each other. Kang Ren closed in on the sect as a ray of light. Although the mountain was surrounded by poison, the poison moved aside when he entered. It was obvious he had something to protect himself against the poison. After charging into the poison, a giant mountain appeared before Kang Ren. There were countless caves visible on the mountain. Just as Kang Ren was about to enter the valley, a roar came from within. Who dares to break into the valley? Report your name. If you don't report in 3 breaths, you will suffer the consequences. There was a flash of coldness in Kang Ren's eyes as he stopped outside the valley and roared, "Virtual cloud. What is the meaning of this?" "Oh? So it turns out to be junior brother Kang. The fog was too thick, so I didn't see clearly." "Didn't junior brother Kang head out? How come you back already? What did you capture with the puppet net?" The voice was casual, and a hunchback youth walked out from the valley. The youth was very handsome, but his hunched back destroyed all the positive vibes his appearance would exude. Instead, it seemed like something was off about him. "You too nosy." Kang Ren let out a cold snort and charged into the valley. The hunchback youth revealed a vicious expression as he stared at where Kang Ren went. There is something strange. There is a problem. There is a treasure. As he pondered, he left a puppet here and flew toward the valley. As for Kang Ren, he flew through the valley and closed in on a mountain. He instantly entered one of the caves and waved his left hand. The door to the cave slowly closed, and a formation activated to make the door extremely strong. He was still not certain, so he waved his hand and 9 puppets of varying ages appeared to guard the door. At the same time, 2 more dark wooden people appeared inside the cave. As Kang Ren walked out, the 2 men made of wood revealed ghostly light in their eyes. Kang Ren didn't even look at them as he walked past them. He arrived in the depths of the cave. There was a night pearl here that released a soft light that quietly illuminated the cave. However, the light wasn't too strong, so it made the cave feel dark. There was a formation about 100 feet wide that gave off bursts of purple aura under the light of the night pearl. This aura made the formation look very strange. Beside the formation, Kang Ren waved his right hand. Wang Lin, who was brought by him, landed inside the formation. Kang Ren excitedly rubbed his hands together as he stared at the formation surrounded by fog, his eyes shining brightly. "I must refine it as soon as possible. That virtual cloud is very vicious. Once he learns that I've brought a puppet back, he will have some scheme in mind." Kang Ren waved his right hand and portions of materials used by the Blue Dragon sect to refine puppets flew out toward the formation. At the same time, his left hand formed a seal and pressed it against the formation. The formation rumbled and began to activate. The fog formed a vortex. Then a source of fire was pulled from the ground under the formation, causing the cave to be filled with heat. The heat wave landed on Kang Ren's body and immediately caused sweat to appear on his forehead. "Every time I refine a puppet, I need to use the earth fire, which is simply too hot. Only those powerhouses with a fire essence cannot be affected by the earth fire. They can even use it to cultivate. I don't know when I'll become a powerful cultivator too." Kang Ren's eyes were filled with longing. He sped up the extraction of the earth fire and began refining. He kept throwing materials into the formation, and his expression was very excited. "No matter who you used to be, now that you in my hands, you will become my puppet. I knew. I'll definitely refine you." When the formation activated, outside the cave, the hunchback youth was respectfully standing on top of another mountain, and before him was a white-haired old man. This old man's face was purplish black, which formed a shocking contrast with his white hair. The aura of an early-stage nirvana void cultivator spread out from his body. "You dared to disturb this old man's closed-door cultivation for such a trifling matter? Even if you have a personal grudge against the Kang Ren," as the old man spoke, his eyes lit up and his gaze penetrated the cave Kang Ren was in. He felt the formation that was used to refine puppets rumble. The hunchback youth knelt there and whispered, "Teacher, there is something strange about the puppet he brought back. Kang Ren is rarely ever so hasty. I have known him since he was little. There must be a problem. That puppet must be a treasure. I hope teacher can steal it and give it to disciple. The old man was still looking into the distance, and after a long time, his pupils shrank and he stood up. Seeing the old man standing up, the hunchbacked youth revealed a look of joy. To extract so much fire, there is indeed a problem, forget it. Follow me to see what kind of puppet he is refining. The old man waved his sleeve and walked out of the cave. The hunchback youth quickly followed while barely suppressing his excitement. As for Kang Ren, he was soaked in sweat, but he was even more excited. He was no longer sitting but walking around the formation. He continued to place seals and throw in various materials. The excitement in his eyes became even more intense. I have used all my materials. Once I succeed in refining this puppet, ha-ha. Kang Ren had forgotten about everything and moved even faster. Wang Lin was lying inside the fog and was surrounded by fire as if he was burning. However, the flames around his body didn't burn him at all. They seemed to be excited and continued to enter his body. Just at this moment, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, the ink tattoo formed by the Mosquito King on his right arm opened its eyes as well. The Mosquito King's eyes were filled with a terrifyingly cold gaze. The end of the month, wishing for the like button for the video, don't hold back, it's expiring. This would be the first time Wang Lin would open his eyes on the immortal astral continent before he shook the entire continent. This was the first time he saw the immortal astral continent with his own eyes. This was the first time he felt the aura of the immortal astral continent himself. When Wang Lin awakened, he checked the heaven, avoiding coffin behind him. After he made sure there was nothing wrong, he checked the earth fire around him. How could mere earth fire burn? Wang Lin dared to burn him. The earth fire that had been extracted was simply really insignificant. He had the fire essence, so not only did the earth fire cause him no harm, it also sped up his awakening. Also, because this earth fire was from the immortal astral continent, a shocking change occurred when it merged with Wang Lin's fire essence from the cave world. This change was something that had never happened on the immortal astral continent before. This was a battle between a foreign fire essence and the fire essence of the immortal astral continent itself. If the fire essence of the immortal astral continent won, then Wang Lin's fire essence would be devoured and become part of the immortal astral continent. If that happened, Wang Lin's cultivation level wouldn't change, and he would still have his fire essence. However, he wouldn't be the lord of all fire in the world, because the fire would belong to the immortal astral continent. But if Wang Lin won, then his fire essence would be above the immortal astral continent. He would become the real emperor of fire. Wang Lin looked at the fog above. He could feel a weak cultivator walking around him, constantly throwing seals and items he had never seen before. These items accelerated the fire, and also helped with the function of the formation below. Strange power came from the formation, wanting to enter his body to carry out a series of changes. Even though Wang Lin was in a coma and didn't know what had happened, with his wisdom, he immediately made a rough guess. When I was unconscious, I was brought here by this person to be refined from the looks of the formation. It seems to be related to puppets. Is he trying to refine me into a puppet? There was a flash of coldness in Wang Lin's eyes. In the cave world, no one had dared to try to refine him into a puppet. Even people like the sovereign hadn't and dreaded him. Wang Lin didn't consider the formation worthy of his time. Although there were some mysteries to it, now was not time to study it. Wang Lin found the earth fire here more interesting. He ignored the Kang Ren, who was still excitedly refining and hadn't realized that Wang Lin had woken up. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out directly underground. He wanted to see where this earth fire came from. How did the fire of the immortal astral continent compare to his own fire? As his divine sense spread out, Wang Lin's eyes revealed a strange light. He saw that under the mountains of the surrounding tens of thousands of kilometers was a mass of fire veins. This mountain range was located on top of a branch of an earth fire vein. The branch looked large, but in truth, it was really thin. It was connected to the main source that led to the unknown. Wang Lin's divine sense spread out once more, and he was shocked to find a complex network of earth fire below. The lower he went, the hotter the fire became. The fire veins looked like a giant fire formation. Wang Lin withdrew his divine sense. He had just awakened and wasn't sure of his surroundings, so it was inconvenient to explore by force. Although it is not inconvenient to go deeper, I can extract more fire to nourish my fire essence. Wang Lin pondered as his right hand gently hit the formation on the ground. With this, the entire blue dragon sect trembled, and all the fire under this mountain range seemed to be stimulated. It all surged like crazy from all directions and entered Kang Ren's cave. This sudden change startled Kang Ren, who was walking around and placing seals. He quickly retreated and formed countless layers of protection around him. The 9 puppets guarding the door and the 2 wooden ones charged out in front of him to protect him from the fire that had suddenly erupted. The moment Kang Ren retreated, a sea of fire surged inside the formation and turned into a pillar of fire. It burned up all the fog and blocked all lines of sight as it burned like crazy. The cave obviously couldn't withstand it, and countless cracks appeared, as if it was going to collapse. The 9 puppets before Kang Ren were hit by the fire and immediately exploded. There were also those 2 wooden puppets. They also collapsed without any ability to resist. Kang Ren's scalp went numb, and his eyes were filled with despair. He watched the high temperature coming to devour him like the mouth of death. At this moment, a ray of ghostly light shot out from the fire and surrounded him. The fire went past him and didn't injure him. But despite this, having walked the edge of death, Kang Ren fell to the ground in fear. He looked at the fire that filled the cave, and fear filled his heart. What kind of person did I bring back? As the earth fire erupted, Virtual Cloud and his teacher arrived outside Kang Ren's cave. At this moment, the expression of the white-haired old man changed greatly. He quickly grabbed his disciple and retreated several thousand feet. As he retreated, the entrance to Kang Ren's cave collapsed and a heat wave surged out. All the pavilions on the mountain disappeared in a sea of fire. The surrounding mountains trembled under the fire as if they were going to erupt. This sudden change shocked the Blue Dragon sect disciples. They all rushed out from their caves and looked down in fear. The ancestor is out. Why was there a change to the earth fire? Virtual Cloud's teacher looked gloomy as he stared at the sea of fire below. He looked at the cave Kang Ren was in. At the same time, 3 powerful auras came from the Blue Dragon sect. They turned into 3 people that appeared beside Virtual Cloud's teacher. Among the 3 were 2 men and 1 woman. One of the men and the woman had white hair, while the other man was middle-aged. They all had the aura of third-step cultivators. Their cultivation levels were not low. The middle-aged man was at the mid-stage of spirit void. As soon as he appeared, he let out a roar at the sky. Disciples of the Blue Dragon sect, listen to my command. The earth fire goes through a change once every 10,000 years. This time, it says a bit early, but don't panic. Quickly, set the heavenly water formation. His words echoed like thunder. The minds of all the Blue Dragon sect disciples who heard this trembled, and they immediately sat down in the sky. Their hands formed seals and countless clouds came out of their bodies. The tens of thousands of disciples quickly created large formation. This formation rumbled as it appeared. From a distance, it looked like a large dark cloud that covered tens of thousands of kilometers. This cloud was very dark, and it contained the tens of thousands of Blue Dragon sect disciples that were present. At the same time, aside from the middle-aged man and Virtual Cloud's teacher, the other 2 third-step cultivators charged into the dark cloud without waiting for a command. They used some unknown spell and turned into 2 long dragons inside the cloud. These 2 dragons were almost 100,000 feet long. A moment later, they revealed their giant dragon heads and opened their mouths at the burning mountain below. Rain fell from the sky and large amounts of water came out from the mouths of the 2 dragons. Elder Li, you were the first one to arrive. What happened here? As the rain fell to fight against the fire, the middle-aged man gloomily looked at the white-haired old man beside him. The earth fire changes once every 10,000 years, and it should be 3,000 more years before it appears. There must be a reason for it to appear early. The middle-aged man's gaze moved away from the white-haired old man and glanced at the hunchback youth. This gaze caused the youth's heart to tremble, and he almost couldn't remain standing. Elder Zhao, if this is not the normal change to the earth fire, it might be related to the 3rd-generation disciple Kang Ren. Kang Ren? The middle-aged man frowned and couldn't recall this name. The white-haired man looked at the sea of fire below and pointed at Kang Ren's cave. This person has brought back 2 bodies from somewhere unknown, and the change to the earth fire happened when he was refining the puppets. The sect master and old ancestor went out to the Great Soul sect. I have already sent out a message Jade, so they should be on their way back. Since it is possible that this is being caused by the 2 bodies Kang Ren brought back, Then this old man will see what kind of bodies can cause the earth fire to change. There was a flash of killing intent in the middle-aged man's eyes. This change to the earth fire had caught the Blue Dragon sect was off guard. Although there were no deaths, a lot of buildings had been destroyed along with large amounts of celestial herbs that were growing and in storage. The price was simply too big. As he spoke, the middle-aged man's body flickered and water vapor surrounded him. The water vapor turned into a bubble 30 feet wide, and he charged down into the burning mountain to where Kang Ren's cave was. The door to the cave had long broken and there was nothing blocking him. The middle-aged man moved very fast and instantly arrived at the cave. He looked very fast, but he was, in fact, very cautious. He felt like this matter was somewhat strange. However, he didn't take it too much to heart. He was very proud of his strength. Just as he entered the cave, the middle-aged man saw a youth wearing the Tao robe of the Blue Dragon sect. The young man looked like he was in a daze, and his